Chapter 1653. A month later, the martial emperor and Jiang Feng stood together. It could be considered as a victory meeting. Jiang Feng looked behind the martial emperor, at the 100 helmeted and armored warriors, and could not help but frown. "This is your army? You can say so. They will be the vanguard of our expedition against the Li family island." The martial emperor nodded. He did not want to reveal the identity of these troops. If Jiang Feng knew that these were the army of the sky beyond sky, it was hard to guarantee that he would not have other methods waiting for him. But Jiang Feng's expression was not that good. He could feel a terrifying threat from these armored warriors. They were all very strong. If these guys were to be pulled together, not to mention anything else, destroying a few countries would be an easy task. With this kind of army, what was the martial emperor afraid of? Jiang Feng thought, "Luckily I have preserved a certain amount of strength and placed it in the headquarters. Otherwise, if all my people died in this joint operation, how can I fight against the martial emperor?" Fortunately, it was not only him, there were also many elites from other countries. There were at least 1,000 experts standing on the ships that were preparing to go, waiting to attack the Li family island. That small Li family island had become almost everyone's nightmare. Jiang Feng looked at these people and could not help but mutter in his heart. Back then, even against the demon nine-tailed divine fox, there was no such lineup. Now that he thought about it, it was a little ironic. With such a huge army, attacking the Li family island should be a piece of cake. Niu Xuan stood in the crowd. He led a few experts from the heroic martial sect and said arrogantly, "Don't look down on Li Fan." Jiang Feng reminded Niu Xuan, "In terms of martial arts, among us, only the martial emperor can compete with him. No matter how many people there are, they won't be able to handle so many experts." Niu Xuan scoffed, "You guys are too deified by Li Fan. How can he be so strong? Is he a god?" "He can't be considered a god, but his strength is already close to that of an immortal." The martial emperor was not like before. He was very serious about the strength of his opponents. The fact that Li Fan's strength was comparable to his, who had cultivated the perfected immortal art and had activated his Dharma body, and Li Fan had even defeated him. This meant that Li Fan's strength was no less than that of an exalted immortal. With such a powerful master, what could a few hundred martial arts masters do to him? "We still need to use some true experts to restrain him." As the martial monarch spoke, he glanced at the beastmen army and felt that they were not strong enough. It would be great if all his gold and silver were here. As long as he nurtured them well, they would definitely become outstanding combat power. Also, the current Liao Qianqian was not bad. Li Fan had used some unknown method to change her physique so that she was no longer an internal energy insulator. What kind of talent did he have? How could his daughter be inferior? If he could flatten the Li family island this time, he would bring Liao Qianqian back. This way, he would be able to carry forward his martial arts. He could also have a helper and would no longer be restrained by the realm beyond heaven. "I will help you restrain him." Jiang Feng reassured the martial monarch, "Although I don't have the ability to defeat him, I can still help you restrain him." "Commander Jiang, why are you so modest?" The martial monarch laughed. "I remember that you were also the one who defeated me back then. Moreover, on the martial arts field, the strength you displayed was not much weaker than Li Fan. Azura Qi, Azura appearance, this is something that is rarely seen in hundreds of years. Even if it is Azura appearance, how can it be compared to the perfected immortal art?" Jiang Feng sighed softly. "The perfected immortal art's Dharma body is really enviable and powerful. Don't worry, I will pass you 3 pages of the perfected immortal art." The martial monarch suddenly transmitted his voice, causing Jiang Feng to be overjoyed. "What you said, is it true?" "Of course it is true. However, you must also cooperate with me." The martial monarch continued to rope in Jiang Feng. "I lack a person by my side. I know your wish is to destroy the Chinese martial arts world. This does not interfere with my wish. If you join forces with me, even if we can't deal with the sky beyond heaven, we can still survive in my own small country. In that place, I will not allow the so-called Jianghu to exist." The martial monarch said half-truthfully. good, this is really too good. From today onwards, I will follow your lead. To be able to obtain the perfected immortal art, this was simply a huge favor to Jiang Feng. As long as he obtained the perfected immortal art, why would he worry about not being able to defeat Li Fan? This sea journey is long. I will now pass you 3 pages of the perfected immortal art. The martial monarch laughed and transmitted his voice to Jiang Feng. As long as you do not betray me, in the future when the world is under control, I will definitely pass you the last 4 pages. Long live your majesty the martial monarch. Jiang Feng was ecstatic. Then he memorized the 3 pages of the perfected immortal art that the martial monarch passed to him. The distance on the sea was not close. With the speed of their ship, it would probably take them a day to reach the Li family island. A day's time was enough for Jiang Feng to completely digest the 3 pages of the perfected immortal art and then circulate it freely. As if Jiang Feng had obtained a treasure, during the voyage he did not leave the cabin at all. He just sat in the cabin and wholeheartedly studied his set of perfected immortal art. The perfected immortal art is indeed ingenious. After Jiang Feng circulated the perfected immortal art once in his body, his Azura Qi and immortal Qi fused into one. This power was no longer controlled by him, but leaked out, forming a 3-meter-long black tiger, lying in front of him, letting out a series of low roars. As expected, the external release of energy has condensed. Jiang Feng looked at the fierce tiger in front of him and muttered, "If I only rely on the external release of energy, it will be very difficult to defeat the martial monarch and Li Fan. I have to think of a way to make the energy listen to me and gather it on my body." Jiang Feng was not like the martial monarch, who could rely on the Azure Dragon's ability to transform this energy into armor and wear it on his body. If he rashly compressed it on his body, he was afraid that his body would explode into minced meat. If I can't condense it on my body, I can condense it on other places. There were many nano-cores in Jiang Feng's body. Even if he did not rely on the Azura Qi, his own ability was still very strong. Therefore, all he needed to do was to circulate this energy better. Now that things have come to this, is there only Murong's sword technique left? Jiang Feng suddenly came up with a plan. He took out an alloy sword from the box beside him. This alloy sword was just bought by him from the United States at a high price. This kind of sword was implanted with 2 nano-cores, and the material itself was made of a super alloy, which had a very strong energy absorption ability. Jiang Feng originally planned to use it on the Dragon God No. 1's energy absorption, but now it seemed that there was a better use for it. Hehe, third brother, wait for the surprise I have for you this time. Chapter 1654. One day later, the martial emperor's ship finally landed on the Li family island. Li family island's area was not particularly large, it was only half the size of Beijing. The central area of Li family island was a huge amusement park, known as the world's largest amusement park. Even Disney couldn't compare. This amusement park occupied almost 1/5 of Li family island's area. One trip inside, let alone 3 days and 3 nights, even 7 days and 7 nights was not a problem. This kind of super amusement park, although the daily maintenance cost was not low, it attracted an endless stream of tourists. In the amusement park, not only were there various amusement parks, but there were also various special areas. For example, gambling areas like Las Vegas, where gambling was completely legal, but the taxes were also very high. There was also a red light district. Of course, this part of the area belonged to adults. Minors were absolutely not allowed to enter. This was the effect that Li Fan wanted. As long as you had money, you could enjoy a heavenly feeling in this place. Also, there was no need to worry about your safety. You could even spend money to hire security police to protect your travel all day long. After all, everyone in the world knew that Li Family Island was an island with the No. 1 mercenary group. Here, enjoyment and safety coexisted. Many families with the means, as well as those local tyrants and evil gentry, were willing to come to Li Family Island to spend as much as they wanted, burning money like crazy. This also made Li Family Island's wallet more and more full. This is Li Family Island? Why is it so prosperous? Niu Xuan looked at the prosperous and lively port of Li Family Island. He could not help but frown. Wasn't it just a small broken island? He heard that a few years ago, there was a war here every day. The people on the island either died or fled. There were not many people left. It had only been a few years, and this broken island had actually become so prosperous? Friends who have come from afar. Just as the ship was about to land on the island, 4 great sword guard mechs flew over from the sky and landed at the 4 corners of the ship. Each mech held a magnetic storm spear and aimed it at the ship. And one of the mechas reminded, "Please disembark at Port 3, thank you for your cooperation." What is this? Seeing the mechas flying in the air, Niu Xuan was dumbfounded. This is the Great Sword Guard, the strategic weapon of the Li Family Island. Jiang Feng explained, "Currently, it's the world's top strategic weapon, and it's not for sale." Some of the American experts at the side were very jealous. The birth of the Great Sword Guards announced that the United States was no longer the world's most advanced military country. 4 Great Sword Guards are enough to destroy our ship. Do as they say. Jiang Feng gave a suggestion. Based on Li Fan's personality, he probably wants us to fight in a place with no one around. That way, innocent people won't get involved. Why should I care about them? The martial emperor snorted coldly, and Jiang Feng continued to give suggestions. Your Majesty, martial monarch, if we were to fight somewhere else, it would definitely harm many innocent people. In that case, we will become the enemies of the entire world. For now, it's not suitable for us to have too many enemies. Why should we do whatever they say? Niu Xuan also objected, maybe they have set a trap for us and are waiting for us to walk right into it. Li Fan, that coward, he's definitely scared. I understand Li Fan better than you. Jiang Feng glanced at Niu Xuan, and only felt that this brother was the same as his second uncle, a fellow whose head was filled with paste. Are you very proud? Understanding an enemy? Why not? Jiang Feng completely defeated Niu Xuan in bickering. There is a saying in the art of war, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Haven't you heard of it? Niu Xuan also realized that he couldn't win against Jiang Feng. I think you are afraid of that Li Fan. Whether I am afraid or not, it's hard for me to say. I only know that I fought with him for hundreds of rounds before I was able to determine the victor. Some people were defeated in 3 moves. You! Niu Xuan gritted his teeth in anger. This bastard, when he returned, he would definitely get his second uncle to punish him. All right, stop arguing. The martial emperor stretched out his hand and stopped their quarrel. No matter what methods they use, we are not afraid. Since they want a battlefield, we will satisfy them. Inform the captain to sail to the 3rd port. Thank you for your cooperation, please follow us. The 4 great sword guardians guided them as they continued to sail towards the east. After walking for a short distance, everyone's eyes lit up as they looked in surprise at a huge platform on the surface of the sea. This platform was almost 10,000 square meters, it was a huge place, and it was very spacious. There was only a huge castle. And on top of it, there was only one man, Li Fan. After the 4 great sword guardians guided everyone over, they stood on 4 pillars on the 4 sides, like statues. Li Fan, you are very courageous. The martial emperor directly leaped from the ship, jumping tens of meters and landing on the platform. From afar, he looked at Li Fan and said, "You are actually going to face my alliance army by yourself? I do not dare to be negligent." Li Fan cupped his fists. "My people are naturally here as well." With that, from a tall tower on the side of the island, over 107 hero sword guardians suddenly jumped down. These sword guardians each held a sharp 7 hero sword in their hands, standing behind Li Fan. Then, a beautiful woman in white descended from the sky, standing in front of everyone, attracting the gazes of countless men, who were unwilling to look away. This was Imperial Concubine Zhou, the undying evil Buddha, one of Li Fan's harem. "Old Guan, let's see who can kill more people today." Another handsome Taoist priest, who was even more beautiful than a woman, floated down with his qinggong. "Ox nose, your martial arts are not suitable for killing people." Another red-faced man wearing a green robe, holding a crescent moon blade, rode a tall warhorse, separated the crowd, and walked out. 2 guardians, don't forget about the 2 of us. Li Xiaohu and Jiang Yi walked out as well. Both of them were Li Fan's proud disciples. Naturally, they wanted to join in at this time. Amit Ba. Big Monk Subhoodie also ran out to join in the fun. This time, this poor monk can finally have a good fight. After this, I still have to preach to the female benefactors, so please hurry up. Another 6 great sword guardians flew over and landed on the artificial island. This artificial island was originally intended to be used as a luxurious water hotel, with a very complete set of community facilities. But now, it was used as a battlefield, so that the innocent people on the island would not be affected. Today, here, Li Fan vowed to defend the Li family island with his life. Everyone, go ahead. Bai Lin Luo stood at the back and patted the summoned angel beside him. That's enough milk pipe. Chapter 1655. On Li Fan's side, there are many talents, causing the martial emperor to be extremely jealous. Furthermore, he knows that this should only be a portion of Li Fan's power. There should still be a portion of his power hidden on the island. Li Family Island welcomes everyone to challenge us. Li Fan points to the newly built castle behind him. This castle is the future Super Castle Hotel, and it has just been completed not long ago. After the surrounding facilities are completed, it will officially open for business. At this moment, Li Fan plans to make good use of this place and give the martial emperor and the rest a little surprise. Since everyone wants to deal with me, Li Fan, I will give everyone 2 choices. Li Fan raises 2 fingers. First, follow my rules and participate in the challenge game that I have arranged for everyone. If I lose, I, Li Fan, will be at your disposal. Second, engage in a chaotic battle here. Life and death are up to fate. My Li Family Island, my 7 Knights Villa is not afraid. Kill, kill, kill. All of the sword guards raise their swords and roar 3 times, their killing intent shaking the sky. Hehe, I think you are crazy. Niu Shuiyan has already come down and cannot help but laugh at Li Fan. Do you see how many people we have? Over 1,000 people. Why should we follow your way? We can easily kill all of you. Is that so? Li Fan snaps his fingers, and over 100 sword guards form a strange sword formation, and actually surround the 1,000 experts. There are 108 7 Knight sword guards here, and they are using the Super 4 Division sword formation. Li Fan smiles. Everyone, feel free to try and see if you can break through their defense. Oh, right, if the Martial Emperor and Jiang Feng make a move, Imperial Concubine Zhou and I will personally accompany you 2 to play. Hehe, do you think we are afraid of you? The Martial Emperor is angered by this. He actually wants to follow his rules? Who is the high and mighty Martial Emperor? 2 teams of 10, break this dog-bird sword formation for me. The Martial Emperor bellowed, and the 20 beast-headed warriors charged towards a sword formation. Vermilion bird sword array. All the sword guards suddenly swung the swords in their hands. Streaks of flames passed in front of them, and the 20 or so beastman warriors were directly beheaded, their bodies burnt to a crisp. The battle prowess displayed by the sword formation shocked the martial emperors and the others. Not to mention that there were more than a dozen Master Realm experts, there were also 2 half-saint experts who were somewhat weak. How could they be killed just like that? The martial monarch noticed with slight despair that besides himself and Jiang Feng, anyone else that encountered this sword formation would definitely die. Yu's bullshit 100-man team was useless. Under the opponent's 100-man sword formation, they were no match at all. Sure enough, Li Fan had long been prepared. He actually had such a strong defensive power. If he didn't make a move, how was he supposed to break this 100-man sword formation? I don't believe that you'll be able to block our charge. Niu Shuiyan roared. Of course, it's impossible. Li Fan did not overestimate his own strength. However, in order to fight with all of you, I have the mentality of cutting off all means of retreat. Great Sword Guardians. Li Fan gave the order, and the 4 great sword guards who had led the crowd here suddenly took out another machine cannon from their backs and aimed it downwards. Actually, I feel that having money is also a good thing. Li Fan chuckled. A few days ago, I was idle and bought 4 nuclear warheads from a certain country. Although the power is not great, it can flatten this artificial island. You're crazy. When Niu Shuiyan heard nuclear warheads, he had the urge to pee his pants. Fuck, although he was a martial artist and a master realm expert, he was still a mortal. How could he go against a nuclear warhead? It's just a small method to protect myself. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders. After all, I am very weak. Please forgive me. Fuck, how shameless. I don't believe that you have nuclear warheads here. Jiang Feng questioned Li Fan. Do you think that you can buy nuclear warheads whenever you want? If you don't believe me, feel free to try. Li Fan chuckled. Why don't you see if I have nuclear warheads or not? No one dared to try. Li Family Island had such advanced technology. Not to mention buying nuclear warheads, even if they were to develop it themselves, people would believe it. So, you only left one path for us. Jiang Feng already understood. If it was a decisive battle, it would be the last resort. Since you are here, we might as well play with you. The martial emperor crossed his arms and said in a loud voice, Tell us, how do you plan to play? Everyone seems to be here to suppress me. I feel like I am a demon king. Li Fan said, Since that is the case, why don't everyone give it a try? Let's have a game of the brave fighting the evil dragon. Do you see the castle behind me? I am waiting for you in the deepest part of the castle. But in the castle, my brothers will stop you. You can choose 5 representatives to enter here and challenge me. As long as you can get through my castle, you win. How about it? You are really shameless. You actually used this method to weaken our fighting strength. Niu Shuiyan couldn't help but curse. Since you are in my territory, you naturally have to do it my way. Li Fan didn't care about his ridicule. Isn't there a saying, I call the shots in my territory? It is better to say that the fist is the hard truth. Jiang Feng looked around at the great sword guards who were preparing to launch nuclear warheads and snorted. Since the martial emperor has decided to participate in your game, I naturally have no objection. However, I also have a condition. Sure, please say it. We want to increase the quota from 5 people to 8 people. Jiang Feng immediately stated his condition. Moreover, if someone loses their fighting strength, we have the right to replenish the quota. 6 people. Li Fan haggled like he was buying vegetables. You can replenish the quota, but the replenishment must leave the castle and start from the beginning. Sure. Jiang Feng said in his heart, the previous people who were defeated by us. What's the harm in starting from the beginning? Then it is settled. The game can start now. Li Fan chuckled and reminded everyone. Finally, I welcome everyone to Li Family Island. Let us start this game. As Li Fan said this, he turned around and walked into the castle. Bai Lin Luo and the others followed and walked in. The great sword guards stayed behind and guarded the castle. I am so unhappy. We are already here and we still have to listen to them. Niu Shuiyan was very dissatisfied and shouted at Jiang Feng, You cowards, why don't you just make a move? If you want to make a move, then go ahead. Jiang Feng didn't stop him. We will not oppose you. We will even cheer for you. Chapter 1656. Niu Shuiyan puffed and puffed for a long time, but in the end he obediently stood in the crowd and did not make a sound. With Li Jiadao's battle strength, Niu Shuiyan's people were useless. Even if he went up, he would only be humiliating himself. He might as well stay here and follow these people to suppress Li Fan. Let's choose 6 people first. The martial emperor looked at the crowd. These 6 people were extremely important. Since that's the case, count me in. Jiang Feng immediately took a step forward and stood next to the martial monarch in tacit understanding. Oh right, I brought an expert with me. Cheng Mohan, come here. A beautiful woman in black walked out and stood beside Jiang Feng. Cheng Mohan used to be a loyal member of the Imperial Secret Service, but no matter how hard she tried, the Imperial Secret Service was still destroyed. In the end, she was still found by Jiang Feng and persuaded to join him as a general of the Imperial Army. To be honest, the martial emperor was a little envious. Not to mention others, even if Heartless Blade Yushi was still here, she would at least be a great help to him. Unfortunately, Yushi had already disappeared in the vast sea of people, and he could not find her at all. He had lost all his talents. Right now, there was only Jiang Feng by his side, but how could this Jiang Feng wholeheartedly assist him? He really regretted leaving an elite to assist him back then. This time, he must destroy all the experts under Li Fan and make Li Fan lose all his support. This way, Li Fan, who had lost his right-hand man, would no longer be a threat. I'll be the fourth. Niu Shuyan did not want to wait outside. He immediately took a step forward and walked to Jiang Feng's side. The martial emperor looked at him coldly, but did not say anything. To the martial emperor, other than Jiang Feng, the rest of these people were trash, and it made no difference whether he brought them or not. Although you had decent battle strength, because of the restrictions of the sky beyond heaven, he could not make a move, so he would just watch the battle. 100-man commander, you go too. You ordered, and the 100-man commander, whose bare head was covered by his helmet, let out a terrifying beast roar, and then walked towards the martial emperor. Is there another candidate? The martial emperor was a little impatient. It's useless to bring too much trash, just 5 is enough. Jiang Feng was a little helpless. This guy was really wasting the opportunity that he fought for. Actually, he didn't know that the martial monarch's temper had already changed a lot. If it was in the past, he would not have brought anyone with him. He believed that he could solve everything by himself. However, he really looked down on the people around him. They claimed to be elites, but they were actually just a motley crew. One more person means one more guarantee. Jiang Feng chuckled. He realized that the martial emperor had no intention of refusing, so he glanced at the crowd. Long Fengyu, Alliance Master Long, the people of Jianghu all say that you are incomparably intelligent, and that you can plan out the world. Why don't you help us out? Not at all, not at all. It's just the Jianghu brothers showing their favor. Long Fengyu politely said, however, if you need it, this Long is willing to do his part. Then let's keep up. The martial emperor flung his robe and walked into the castle. In this so-called game, he will be the final winner. He wants to completely kill Li Fan. He wants to flatten the entire Li family island. The others hurriedly followed behind the martial emperor. These people all knew that the martial emperor was their strongest fighting strength. And that 100-man commander is currently loyal and devoted to the martial emperor, closely following him, not leaving him by even an inch. The group of 6, under the gazes of the others, walked into the huge ancient castle. The ancient castle has a total of 5 floors. Who knows what is waiting for them inside? But to the martial emperor, even if the god of heaven is blocking in front of him, he will definitely beat him up. Those who block me will be killed without mercy. The martial emperor walked towards the ancient castle, but in front of the ancient castle, a bald monk is standing there, clasping his hands together and bowing to them. Amitba, benefactors, the sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and be saved. Where did this monk come from? Scram to the side. Niu Shuyan did not know Subhuti. When he saw Subhuti's smile, he became angry. I can't beat the martial emperor, but I can't beat a stinky monk like you? In order to show off his might, Niu Shuyan directly leaped over and punched Subhuti in the chest. According to the strength of Niu Shuyan's fist, even a bull would fall to the ground and die under his fist. But the monk still had a smile on his face, as if nothing had happened. He even stretched out his hand and helped Niu Shuyan brush off the dust on his clothes. Look at you, your clothes are all dirty. This poor monk will help you clean them. Clean your grandpa. Niu Shuyan immediately followed up with another kick, landing on Subhuti's chest. Tap tap tap. Subhuti did not move an inch, but Niu Shuyan took 3 steps back. His left leg was numb, and he almost could not stand and knelt on the ground. This guy, could it be a robot? Could it be that the Li family island has developed a Terminator? Niu Shuyan rubbed his leg and asked in shock. The martial emperor could not be bothered with this clown. He looked at Subhuti with interest. Indestructible Vajra body? After so many years, I never thought that I would still be able to see someone with this kind of talent. Abnormal bone changing, turning void into reality, heart demon unity, and your indestructible Vajra body. Oh right, there's also the Azura devil chi. This era is really different from the rest. Amitabha, making benefactor happy can be considered this poor monk's accumulation of merit. It's not easy to have a skill like yours. But if you die, it would be a pity. The martial emperor began to poach. Why don't you come to my side? When I conquer this world, I will make you the grand preceptor and make Buddhism the national religion. How about it? Amitabha, benefactor's words have indeed moved this poor monk a little. Subhuti put his palms together, looking like he was bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind, but this poor monk already has a greater belief. Master, do you have any great wishes? It can't be considered a great wish. This poor monk only wishes to purify all the female benefactors in the world. Amitabha, Amitabha. The martial emperor suddenly did not want to speak. Your Excellency's golden body technique is indeed not bad. Long Fangyu walked out and said to Subhuti, but no matter what kind of golden body technique it is, your body will definitely have a weak point. This person should be Master Subhuti, right? Why don't you let me guess, where is your weak point? This is making this poor monk feel embarrassed. Subhuti covered his face and said, let's find a female benefactor to try. Everyone was a little speechless. This guy is actually a playboy monk? I never thought that a person who has mastered the golden body technique would actually not be able to sever the mortal world. Amitabha, the body is in the mortal world. The heart is outside the mortal world. Chapter 1657. Subhuti did not care what the other party asked and answered fluently. He is this kind of person, tempering himself in the mortal world. But Subhuti's martial arts are not for show. His skin is emitting a faint bronze glow, as if his body has really been plated with gold. He just stands there like a real Buddha, causing some people to feel ashamed, not daring to look at him. Since Master has agreed, how about I try? Long Fangyu said as he stretched out his hand and took out a golden sword from the box on his back. A golden dragon sword? Seeing this sword, the martial emperor also recognized it, and he even called out the name of the sword. Your Majesty, martial emperor recognizes this sword? I have seen it before many years ago. Martial emperor nodded. Back then, there was a swordsman known as Golden Dragon Swordsman. He held a sword that was sealed with gold and plated with silver. It was said to be a replica of the Shangfang sword, able to slay gods and Buddhas. I really did not expect that I would be able to see this sword today. It is rare. Martial emperor's old posture, the appearance of a great expert, made others unable to find any fault with him. There is no other way, he is indeed a veteran. Since it is a fake Shangfang sword, why don't you test its power? Long Fangyu did not know where he got this sword from. He held the sword and stood in front of Subhuti as he asked with a smile. Master, is it possible? Can't you find a female benefactor? Master can also see, according to the rules of the game, there are only 6 of us. Long Fangyu shrugged his shoulders. There is no woman. This benefactor bear is a female. Subhuti pointed at the 100-man-tall man. It was clearly wearing a helmet, but for some reason, Subhuti saw through it with a glance. What a pity, what a pity. She looks a little ugly. Amitabha, this poor monk has seen through her appearance. I have sinned. Martial emperor looked at Subhuti coldly. This monk is indeed extraordinary, but he is after all someone from Li Fan's side. He can only be defeated by me. Master has profound dharma, you will definitely not mind. Long Fangyu said as he suddenly thrusted his sword towards Subhuti's throat. Subhuti did not dodge, allowing Long Fangyu's sword to stab into his throat. He was still standing there, his eyes shining with kindness as he chanted Amitabha. This treasured sword, which could cut through iron as if it were mud, was unable to pierce through Subhuti's throat at all. What an invincible Vajra body! Jiang Feng clapped his hands and praised, even such a treasured sword can't do anything to it. Amazing! Jiang Feng was indeed impressed. With this kind of golden body technique, it was really a great advantage. If Li Fan or himself, or even a martial emperor knew this kind of martial arts, they would be able to do whatever they wanted in the world. Don't worry, Master. I still want to try again. So this poor monk will not attack you, please do as you please. Then what are you waiting for? Everyone attacked together. Hearing this, Niu Xuan became spirited as he stepped forward and attacked Subhuti. Under the command of the martial emperor, the bear man also stepped forward and attacked Subhuti together with Niu Xuan. Long Fengyu took out another sword and released sword energy as he slashed at Subhuti. However, even after the three of them messed around for a long time, there was no effect. Azura tiger! Jiang Feng slapped his fan and a black tiger jumped out from behind him. The huge black tiger pounced at Subhuti and bit him in its mouth. With a crunching sound, two of the tiger's teeth were knocked out, while Subhuti was completely fine. This emperor does not believe it. The martial emperor is also a bit angry. He is just a monk, although his talent is outstanding. How can he stop this emperor? All of you, get out of my way. He waved his hand and the people who are attacking Subhuti scattered. The martial emperor directly stepped forward, wrapped in dragon immortal power and heavily slapped Subhuti's chest with his palm. Subhuti's body slid a meter away, but he stomped on the ground and stabilized his body. His body lit up with golden light as if his golden body was lit up, causing the martial emperor to frown. Amitabha, benefactor has great strength. Subhuti clasped his hands together and said to the martial emperor, but if you want to defeat this poor monk, you are still lacking a bit. This monk is actually provoking me. Chapter 1658. Subhuti seemed to be quite happy today, and actually took the initiative to provoke him. What kind of temper did the martial monarch have? He was originally unconvinced and unafraid. Now that he was provoked by a monk, he was even more furious. You're courting death. The martial monarch's body ignited with golden flames, and a golden dragon armor was immediately worn by him. Immortal, Yellow Emperor rides the dragon. The martial monarch instantly stepped forward and fiercely slammed his palm onto Subhuti's chest. A golden draconic aura instantly exploded out from behind Subhuti. Subhuti's feet were rooted to the ground, and the ground beneath his feet cracked layer by layer. His golden body was also affected, and dark red blood flowed out of his 7 apertures. It was obvious that the martial monarch's powerful move had injured Subhuti. What indestructible body, it's only SOSO. Seeing that, Niu Xuan could not help but laugh out loud. Shut up. The martial monarch berated him, causing Niu Xuan to shut his mouth dejectedly. The martial monarch held his hands behind his back, pressing down on his trembling palms, and said, Master's divine arts are indeed extraordinary. This indestructible body of Vajra has actually been trained to the realm of rebound. Amitabha, that's right. Subhuti laughed. This is called, one prosper together, one suffer together. What a good, one prosper together, one suffer together. The martial monarch narrowed his eyes. Li Fan, this fellow, really did not have any good intentions. He had made such a big monk here, it was clear that he wanted to consume his own strength. If he wanted to determine victory or defeat with him, he could still do it. But in this way, he would definitely consume a lot of immortal energy. This would be detrimental to his future battles. Your Majesty, don't worry, I already have a way. Jiang Feng closed his fan and gave Qing Mohan a look. The latter nodded and took off the zither from his back. He stepped on the ground with one leg and raised his other leg to hold the zither. He stood there and plucked the zither strings. A burst of rapid warhorse music immediately resounded outside the castle gates. Some of the weaker people in the surroundings, upon hearing this music, immediately covered their ears and knelt on the ground in pain, wailing incessantly. All of them were bleeding from their 7 apertures, and they looked as miserable as they could be. As for Jiang Feng and the others, it was because Qing Mohan's music had a directional nature and basically only affected Subhuti. As for the others, they couldn't stand it because their cultivation was too low. Subhuti, who had been as steady as a diamond or a boulder, upon hearing this music, suddenly began to tremble, and his eyes began to glow with a red light. Sabotage from the inside? The martial emperor crossed his arms and guessed, shatter the monk's heart with music? That shouldn't be possible. The reason why the invincible Vajrabody was so strong was because it had been trained to the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Even after death, their bodies could not be destroyed. In the past, there were such eminent monks, but in the end, they were all immortal, so they were simply plated with gold lacquer and worshipped in temples. It was probably impossible to use powerful music to break down the insides of the indestructible body, right? The martial emperor was also on guard. With Li Fan and Jiang Fang's special abilities, one could devour, while the other could be killed to inherit abilities. Therefore, both of them had a way to obtain the invincible Vajrabody. Once they got their hands on it, it would be too terrifying. It's not internal sabotage. Jiang Feng said, the invincible Vajrabody. Before I came here, I already understood this technique. If you want to practice this kind of martial art, you must at least have a heart as firm as a rock. What do you mean? This song is secretly demonic. Jiang Feng was quick-witted. He continued, Alliance Master Long's guess is correct. There is no golden body martial art that does not have a pulse. Even the invincible Vajrabody is the same. And the only weak point of the invincible Vajrabody is the mind. Jiang Feng's words hit the nail on the head. At this moment, Subhuti was under the influence of the demonic music. He was half kneeling on the ground, his body trembling slightly, and his eyes glowing red. A ferocious black tiger appeared behind Subhuti and clawed at his back. A large piece of flesh was torn from Subhuti's back, and blood splattered everywhere. Let me help His Majesty solve this problem. Jiang Feng was about to give Subhuti another blow, but the martial emperor suddenly reached out and activated the great phaseless technique. Subhuti's body was sent flying, smashing through the door behind him and flying into the ancient castle. He is an eminent monk after all. Let him live. The martial emperor gave a dignified reason, but the credibility was too low. An archangel flapped his wings and flew down, landing beside Subhuti and carrying him away. Everyone has passed the first stage, please continue. A woman with a 7-hero sword stood on the stairs at the side. She was the guard captain of the 7-hero sword guards, Wang Xiaoran. Playing this kind of boring game, your villa master is really boring. The martial emperor sneered, if you have the guts, let him come out and have a good fight with us. Everyone, please abide by the rules of the game. The next stage is still waiting for you. With that, Wang Xiaoran used her qinggong and disappeared from everyone's line of sight in a flash. This woman, she is so young, but she already has such qinggong. Jiang Feng praised, the 7-hero villa is indeed amazing. The few martial arts that my third brother created are also out of the ordinary. It's just a few escape techniques. Niu Xuan was very unconvinced. If we really compete in martial arts, she can't beat me. Yes, sect leader Niu's Japanese martial arts are also very powerful. Jiang Feng praised with a smile, but no matter how Niu Xuan heard it, he felt that something was wrong. Where should we go next? Long Fengyu looked at the huge castle. There were many rooms inside, and he really didn't know where to go. Follow me. The martial emperor raised his foot and walked towards the second floor. Jiang Feng believed in his judgment and immediately followed his footsteps. The rest of the people followed the lead of the two of them. Out of the 6 people, 2 of them stood on Jiang Feng's side. One of them was here to pass the time, and the only one who, sincerely, helped the martial emperor was a brainless idiot. However, the martial emperor felt that he was in an extremely good condition today. He would definitely be able to beat up that bastardly Fan. They directly went to the second floor. In front of the second floor, stood a young man dressed in simple clothes with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. This man was holding a big sword in his hand. He stood on the stairs and waved the sword, training his body. Seeing the martial emperor and the others coming over, the young man's expression remained the same. Huashan Chenjunhua? Jiang Feng was very familiar with the people in the pugilistic world. Although Chenjunhua had left Huashan a long time ago, he was still recognized by Jiang Feng with a glance. Right now, I am the 7-hero villa's Chenjunhua. Chenjunhua emphasized his identity. I am the 7-hero villa's commandment elder. Everyone, please enlighten me. Who is willing to fight? The martial emperor was incomparably arrogant. He did not want to personally participate in every battle. He was an emperor, so he must have the airs of an emperor. Chapter 1659. Mr. Chen had a bright future. Jiang Feng sighed. It's a pity that he withdrew from Mount Hua halfway. What a pity. Don't say anything useless. Qin Junhua said decisively, let's fight. Let me fight this round. Niu Shuyan felt that he had found a chance to show off. The monk from before was indeed difficult to deal with, but this guy in front of him with a big sword did not seem to be famous. When Jiang Feng mentioned him, he did not seem to be particularly respectful. Moreover, this guy was an abandoned disciple of Mount Hua. He must have been expelled by Mount Hua because he did not have any potential or strength. Jiang Feng was extremely hypocritical. He must be too embarrassed to say it out loud, so he found such an excuse. Moreover, this person was really crazy. Using such a big sword, it was like a door plank, right? That kind of weapon was not suitable for attack. It was probably used to act cool. Niu Shuyan, please enlighten me. Qin Junhua followed the rules of the competition and cupped his hands at Niu Shuyan. But at this moment, Niu Shuyan suddenly attacked. He directly whipped his leg and kicked towards Qin Junhua's head. But Qin Junhua pushed his left hand forward and used his arm to block Niu Shuyan's calf. Who wants to spar with you? You reckless thing, die. Niu Shuyan said as he turned around and gave another side kick. Qin Junhua easily pulled out the big sword on his back and held it in front of him. With a thud, he blocked Niu Shuyan's kick. Even if it was a steel plate, Niu Shuyan was confident that his kick could bend it. But the big sword in Qin Junhua's hand was undamaged. Instead, it produced a sharp sword aura that shook Niu Shuyan's calf and even left some blood marks on his calf. What? Niu Shuyan did not react. Such a heavy big sword, how could he wave it like it was a game? Even if a martial artist had great strength, such a heavy big sword should not be played with so easily, right? Or could it be that this sword was strong on the outside but weak on the inside? It was not heavy at all? Since that was the case, he might as well snatch the sword. His opponent was a swordsman. Without the sword, he would probably lose half of his combat power. Give it to me. Niu Shuyan showed an opening. Taking advantage of Qin Junhua's attack, he suddenly moved to the side and kicked Qin Junhua's wrist, causing him to take a step back. At the same time, he threw the big sword in his hand towards Niu Shuyan. Niu Shuyan was overjoyed. This was exactly what he wanted. Niu Shuyan stretched out his hand, wanting to catch the sword. Pooh! The big sword pressed down on Niu Shuyan's body and pushed him to the ground. Shuyan, Niu said, sword. Isn't this a fucking small mountain? Qin, he comic Qin said, Qin, Jun, Qin, Jiang Qin. A Wu, the sword, the Feng with Qin Feng, the Qin follow. Qin Feng was with. The reason why he was allowed to follow him was because he wanted to drag that bureau chief Niu down with him. As long as bureau chief Niu was on their side, Jiang Feng would always have the support of the government. For Jiang Feng, it was very important to have this support. After all, he did not want to end up like Li Fan. Cheng Mohan, I'll leave this place to you. All right. Cheng Mohan, who had disappeared for a long time, seemed to have been reborn. She was originally a top expert among the embroidered uniform guards, and now, through Jiang Feng, she had learned the real great phaseless technique, so naturally, her strength had increased greatly. Cheng Mohan walked in front of Qin Junhua and once again stood on one leg, setting up her guqin. She leaned back slightly, as if she could sit down by leaning on one of her legs. He did not look like he was here to fight. Instead, he looked like a real musician. Elder Qin, please enlighten me. As Cheng Mohan spoke, she stretched out her hand and plucked the strings. A crescent-shaped sound wave flew out and slashed towards Qin Junhua. Clang. Qin Junhua immediately held his sword horizontally like a shield, blocking in front of him. The sword chi left a row of sword marks on the sword, and Qin Junhua's body was also pushed back a step by the sword chi. When the martial emperor saw this move, he gave Jiang Feng a meaningful look. Great phaseless technique. What Cheng Mohan used was a special kind of airflow attack that was formed by fusing the great phaseless technique with sound waves. Cheng Mohan named it Sword Sound, and it was a set of attack that belonged to her. Come, continue. As Cheng Mohan spoke, she continued to wave her fingers, and another sword sound flew out, turning into the shape of a crescent moon, heading straight for Qin Junhua. Qin Junhua did not have the slightest bit of fear, and directly waved the huge sword in his hand, and with a clang, the sound wave in front of him was split in half. Good sword technique. This feeling of knowing sword intent like the back of his hand made Qin Junhua more confident, and also made Cheng Mohan admire him from the bottom of her heart. Try again. Cheng Mohan constantly strummed the zither strings, and sword sounds flew out, one after another, heading towards Qin Junhua. But Qin Junhua only continued to wave his huge sword, again and again, splitting the sound wave in front of him. Qin Junhua was like a sword god who did not know exhaustion, waving the huge sword in his hand non-stop, and step by step, he walked towards Cheng Mohan. As long as he walked in front of Cheng Mohan, with just one sword strike, Cheng Mohan would probably be defeated. But Cheng Mohan flicked her hand, and the sound wave suddenly spun, sliding to the side, and attacked Qin Junhua from behind. This kind of unique attack method was something that almost no one could think of. She can control the direction of the sound? This little girl is somewhat powerful. The martial emperor began to envy Jiang Feng again. Whether it was Li Fan or Jiang Feng, they both had talented people by their side. Sooner or later, there will be many talented people by my side. This world will belong to me. Dang! Qin Junhua waved his huge sword, blocking a few sound waves. But Cheng Mohan quickly flicked out two more sword sounds, once again rushing towards Qin Junhua. Qin Junhua could not dodge in time, and was injured by the sword sound. The sword sound was incomparably sharp, and Qin Junhua's wound was very deep. However, he endured the pain and brandished his sword. He slashed forward with an indomitable will. Cheng Mohan barely managed to retreat, but the big sword cut through her zither, and then slashed into the ground. What a waste of time! The martial emperor finally became a little impatient. He pulled Cheng Mohan over and threw her behind him. At the same time, he struck out with his palm towards Qin Junhua. Qin Junhua raised his sword horizontally, and an inch-deep palm print was left on the door-like sword. Chapter 1660. Qin Junhua's body slid out once again. After all, it was the martial emperor's attack, and his body directly smashed into the wall behind him. Qin Junhua's body was embedded in the wall, but he shattered the surrounding stones and stood up, holding the large sword that was as big as a door in his hand once again. It is my honor to be able to fight with the martial emperor. Qin Junhua was a true martial arts fanatic, otherwise he would not have been abducted by Li Fan all those years ago. After seeing my Huashan heavy sword, please try my dragon-subduing sword. As Qin Junhua spoke, he stabbed the big sword into the ground and pulled it out again. With a loud sound, a 3-meter-long sword was pulled out by him and held in his hand. Dragon-subduing sword? Child's play. As the martial emperor spoke, he raised his hand and a powerful palm wind directly struck Qin Junhua's body. Although Qin Junhua's swordsmanship was very strong, it could not block the martial emperor's powerful palm strike. He was once again blown backwards, heavily crashing into the wall. So what if your swordsmanship is strong? The martial emperor mocked. In front of absolute strength, no matter how exquisite your swordsmanship is, it's useless. With that, the martial emperor's body flashed and appeared in front of Qin Junhua, directly slapping towards Qin Junhua's head. However, Qin Junhua suddenly thrust it out with his sword at an extremely fast speed. He, who had been training with a big sword all year round, had now broken free from the comfort of the big sword, and his speed was as if it had been liberated. His treasured sword seemed to have surpassed the speed of sound, and instantly arrived between the martial emperor's eyebrows. Clang! The martial emperor stretched out his hand and quickly blocked the sword. Your sword is indeed very fast, but if you want to deal with me, it's far from enough. Just as the martial emperor finished speaking, Chen Junhua continued to stab. In an instant he seemed to have stabbed out over 100 times. The air in front of him seemed to have been split apart, but the martial emperor also dodged Chen Junhua's stab in the blink of an eye. Dragon of Mount Hua. Chen Junhua's stab was unparalleled in the world. He used his own swordsmanship to force the martial emperor back a few steps. To be able to make me retreat, you should be proud. The martial emperor patted the dust on his body and said, "However, it ends here." The martial emperor seemed to have lost interest in Chen Junhua. 100 men, commander, go kill him.
What?
The bare-headed man jumped over and pounced on Chen Junhua. Dragon of Mount Hua. Suddenly, Chen Junhua's sword pierced through the opponent's helmet and blinded one of his eyes. However, the other party did not have the slightest intention of retreating. It was as if he did not know pain. He flew up and slapped Chen Junhua. A large part of Chen Junhua's chest was torn off, and he flew out, smashing through the wall behind him and falling outside. However, the archangel suddenly appeared and caught him in her arms. Then she flapped her wings and flew away. Everyone has passed the second trial. Wang Xiaoren stood by the side and said, "Next is the third stage, everyone, do your best." But without the zither, Qing Mohan has lost her ability to fight. Jiang Feng smiled and said, "According to the agreement, we can go back and exchange people, right?" "Of course, but the rules are the same. You'll have to go through the first and second stages again." "Heh, right now, Grandmaster Subhoodie should still be recuperating." Jiang Feng laughed. "After suffering such injuries, I'm afraid he won't be able to recover without lying in bed for a few days." With that, he brought Qing Mohan down the stairs. Not long later, he came back with an ashen face. "What's wrong?" Seeing that Jiang Feng did not change people, Martial Emperor could not help but ask. "That damned monk, he has recovered." Even someone as shrewd as Jiang Feng could not help but become flustered and exasperated. It seems that the archangel should have the ability to heal quickly. Long Fangyu already understood the mystery behind it. This way, we, who are constantly entering and leaving the castle, will be in a disadvantageous situation. If we have to fight every time, it will definitely be disadvantageous to us. Jiang Feng did not expect that he would miscalculate. He felt a bit angry. "It seems like we can only continue to fight." "Then let's continue." Martial Emperor sneered. "As long as I am here, that Li Fan will not be able to play any tricks." The 6 of them have no way out and can only continue to explore the castle. Martial Emperor can sense the aura of experts, especially Li Fan's aura. It is very dense and is getting closer and closer to him. If not for the rules of the game, he would have directly smashed the castle wall and immediately arrived in front of Li Fan. But Martial Emperor is also afraid that Li Fan will use some tricks. If he does not have any helpers by his side and rashly goes to Li Fan's place, what if he is tricked by him? Martial Emperor is confident in his martial arts, but he also has a rough judgment of Li Fan's strength. Even if he has improved, if Li Fan uses his full strength, he should still be able to fight evenly with him. If there are other experts by his side, even if they are a bit weaker, they will still be a straw to crush him. The reason why he brought Jiang Feng along is because of this plan. That Li Fan? What is he thinking? Niu Shuiyan is still puzzled as he walks. He might as well bring everyone to fight with us. Isn't that more advantageous for them? Why did he choose such a so-called game? Is there even a need to ask? Jiang Feng's temper is not very good. He coldly snorted and said with a mouth full of ridicule, "My third brother is using this opportunity to properly train his soldiers, borrowing our hands to hone the fighting strength of his subordinates." Long Fangyu also cannot help but sigh. Such courage and insight, such a good method. Then are we going to follow his script? Why don't we issue an order and have 1,000 of us swarm him together? That is the last resort and also the last resort. Although Jiang Feng is unhappy, he has not lost his mind. We can't ignore the threat of the 4 nuclear bombs. This time, we have already fallen into Li Fan's trap and are completely following his rhythm. No matter what method he uses, this emperor will break it. Martial Emperor is full of confidence. Strength is the strongest method. He tracks Li Fan's power and continues to walk in the castle. In front of him is a slender corridor. A gust of cold wind passes through the corridor. Who is in front? Come out. Jiang Feng put away his fan and said to the front. The place they chose for me is not good. A youngster's voice came from the corridor. Then, torches lit up at the side of the corridor, illuminating the corridor. Lu Xiaohu stands there, leaning on a stone pillar and cursing with some dissatisfaction. Such a place, the cold wind is like it is haunted. It is too uncomfortable. You are Li Fan's eldest disciple, right? Seeing Lu Xiaohu, Martial Emperor is even more jealous. This youngster is so talented that he was actually taken in as a disciple by Li Fan. However, this also shows that Li Fan is very weak. For someone like me who keeps changing bodies, he does not need a disciple. Chapter 1661. The reason why Chinese martial masters accepted disciples was because no matter how powerful a martial master was, he would grow old sooner or later. When that time came, his body functions would deteriorate, and he would not be able to use the best martial arts. Therefore, teaching a few disciples while passing on martial arts could also guard against old age. To a martial emperor, he did not need any bullshit disciples. He could continue to be reborn and become stronger. Li Fan's disciple, right? Then let me destroy you. Martial Emperor had already felt the aura on Lu Xiaohu, a grandmaster. It was already very impressive to have this kind of power at such a young age. It could not be said to be impressive, it should be said to be terrifying. After all, Lu Xiaohu was only 17 years old this year. A 17-year-old grandmaster was simply unimaginable. Even the brilliant Lu Jinchan, when he was 17 years old, was only an expert who had reached the next level. 17 years old, although a person's body functions were still young at this age. However, Chinese martial arts not only required external skills, but also internal skills to drive it. And a person's internal skills could not be achieved overnight, it required a lot of time to slowly hone. Li Fan had the Tai Chi reversal, which was already very fast. However, if he wanted to become a top-notch existence like a Sky Immortal, he needed a lot of time to accumulate his internal skills. Therefore, it was almost impossible to become a grandmaster in a young age. According to the rules of martial arts, a teenager would start practicing external skills at the age of 5. To practice internal skills, one's body must reach a certain level. Only after practicing external skills for about 3 years could one start practicing internal skills. In 10 years, those who were slightly stupid could almost practice internal skills to the point of perfection. And those who were slightly smarter could practice to the next level. For example, Lu Jinchan, with his world-class talent, reached the peak of the next level at the age of 17. At the age of 18, he broke through to the next level and became a grandmaster at the age of 25. As for Martial Emperor, when he was 20 years old, he only reached the middle stage of the next level. It was just that he practiced Yang Qi, so even though he had reached the next level, he could still exchange blows with those who had reached the peak. Martial Emperor, although his skills were extremely high, he was a late bloomer. When he was 40 years old, he finally reached the level of a grandmaster. At the age of 50, he found a suitable body, so he used a sorcery to constantly change his brain and body. However, changing his brain also brought him a lot of pain. First of all, a normal body could only endure for 20 years. During these 20 years, he suffered from headaches day and night, wishing he could die. If not for his strong willpower, he would have committed suicide long ago. It was only when the Martial Emperor cultivated the true immortal technique that he was truly free from this kind of pain. The true immortal art allowed him to reconstruct his body, giving him a brand new look. Therefore, when he saw a talented disciple like Lu Xiaohu, he could not help but burn with jealousy. Centurion, go kill him. The bare-headed man, who was blind in one eye, could not feel pain at all, nor could he think. The only value of his existence was to obey the orders of the martial monarch. The bare-headed man pounced on Lu Xiaohu in a frenzy. This saint-level, bare-headed man raised his palm and slapped Lu Xiaohu. Lu Xiaohu sensed danger and immediately took a step back, avoiding the bare man's slap. Bang! A stone pillar that was half a meter thick was directly smashed by the bare man's lazy waist. Looking at the flying gravel, Lu Xiaohu exclaimed, "Wow, such great strength." After all, it was saint-level strength. The bare man pounced forward and hugged Lu Xiaohu. Lu Xiaohu squatted down, and the bare man hugged another stone pillar in front of him. With a fierce hug, it directly broke the pillar in half. Bang bang bang. The bare man waved his palm continuously and slapped at Lu Xiaohu. This bare man's attack did not have any palm techniques, it was completely relying on its brute force. Although in terms of strength, Lu Xiaohu did not dare to fight against the bare man. But with the martial arts that he learned from his master, how could he lose in such a place? The bare man did not seem to know fatigue. He attacked continuously, trying to tear Lu Xiaohu into pieces. It pounced in front of Lu Xiaohu, stretched out a claw, and slapped at the top of Lu Xiaohu's head. However, Lu Xiaohu dodged the bare man's palm. Then, at an extremely fast speed, he pressed down on the bare man's arm, leaped up, and instantly grabbed the bare man's helmet with his tiger claws, forcibly smashing the helmet. His 5 fingers all pierced into the bare man's face. Logically speaking, the bare man should be in so much pain that he would rather die and lose the ability to fight. However, the bare man did not care at all. He directly wrapped his arms around Lu Xiaohu and took advantage of the situation to hug Lu Xiaohu. In just 1 second, he would be able to choke Lu Xiaohu into 2. However, at this time, Lu Xiaohu stretched out his hand and pointed at the bare man. The bare man's body instantly stiffened, the strength in his body instantly flowed out of his body, and his whole body seemed to have turned soft. In addition to being a martial fighter, Lu Xiaohu also had another identity, and that was a mutant. His ability was elimination. In the past, he could eliminate the superpowers of other mutants, but now he had trained to the point where he could directly eliminate the opponent's strength. Strictly speaking, Lu Xiaohu's ability should be called teleportation. He could temporarily teleport the opponent's energy to another place, and after a period of time, they would return. Lu Xiaohu was good at using this ability and directly disintegrated the bare man's strength. Go! Lu Xiaohu's palm directly pierced through the bare man's chest and grabbed its heart out. Meanwhile, his other hand reached out and crushed the bare man's throat. This was not the end. Lu Xiaohu continuously used his tiger claws, breaking the bare man's joints every time. In the end, the bare man could only lie limply on the ground. Even though its strength had returned and its strong vitality could still live for a while without its heart, it could no longer move. After all, the joints of its bones had been crushed into pieces. Oh, it's a big job. Lu Xiaohu sat on the bare man's body and wiped his palm clean on its fur. Come, who wants to play with me? Lu Xiaohu hooked his finger at Emperor Wu and the others. Little guy, not bad. Only one of his true subordinates had died here. Emperor Wu could not tell if he was angry or something else. He chuckled and suddenly appeared in front of Lu Xiaohu. He directly grabbed Lu Xiaohu's neck with his palm and lifted Lu Xiaohu into the air. But your master is too cruel to you. He actually sent you to be fed to the true dragon. As he spoke, a golden dragon head flew out from behind Emperor Wu and opened its mouth to swallow Lu Xiaohu. However, Lu Xiaohu winked at Emperor Wu. Then, Emperor Wu loosened his grip and Lu Xiaohu disappeared into thin air. Chapter 1662. The martial emperor was shocked. He couldn't find Lu Xiaohu's aura at all. How was this possible? He was a dignified martial emperor, a formidable character of his generation. How could he not even be able to lock onto the aura of a grandmaster? It's a superpower. Jiang Feng immediately understood. He's a mutant. How troublesome. The martial emperor became a little irritable. Why did Li Fan have so many experts under him? Take this. A roar suddenly came from above his head. Without hesitation, the martial emperor raised his head and waved his hand to block. Bang! A wave of energy was slapped away by the martial emperor and smashed into the wall beside him, directly shattering it. Li Xiaohu was still above the martial emperor's head. With a tiger's roar, he continuously released white energy waves towards the martial emperor. It's useless. However, the martial emperor did not care. Although Li Xiaohu's strength was not bad, it was far from enough for him. These energy waves were all sent flying by the martial emperor's palm. Not a single one of them landed on his body. The inside of the castle was in trouble. The floor and walls were blasted into pieces, and rocks fell everywhere. Li Xiaohu, today is the day of your death. The martial emperor could not take it anymore. He extended his palm and sucked. Li Xiaohu's body was out of control, and was immediately pulled towards the martial emperor. Tiger tail whip. Li Xiaohu borrowed the force of his flight to twist his waist, and with a ferocious roundhouse kick, he counterattacked the martial emperor. It's still useless. A powerful force erupted from the martial emperor's body. Without waiting for Li Xiaohu to approach, he was sent flying. Li Xiaohu's body heavily crashed into the pillar behind him. Just as the martial emperor was about to give chase, he suddenly frowned. He turned around and with an iron palm, he grabbed a long sword that was thrusting towards him. Dragon subduing sword again? The martial emperor held a black long sword in his hand. Looking at the seemingly weak but actually swift and fierce little girl, he could not help but sneer. Don't you have any other tricks up your sleeves? Jiang Yi. Seeing this woman, Jiang Feng's expression slightly stiffened. He didn't expect that she would still be sent out. Li Fan's 2 disciples? Fine, today I will destroy the 2 of you together. Sorry, I'm not here to fight. Jiang Yi pulled back the eager Li Xiaohu, then cupped his hands towards the martial emperor. Master has ordered that the 2 of us are not your match. But after 10 years, if you are still alive, us 2 martial brothers and sister will come again to ask for advice. Hee, of course I will be alive, but the same cannot be said for you all. Just as the martial monarch was about to make a move, he suddenly felt a wave of killing intent assault him. It was as if a sword was pointed at his throat, causing him to subconsciously take a step back. Sword formed from killing intent? The martial emperor took another look at Jiang Yi. These 2 disciples of Li Fan were actually so outstanding. Everyone, please continue. The 2 of us will take our leave for now. After saying that, Jiang Yi pulled Li Xiaohu along. The 2 of them used their qinggong and leaped backwards. They flew far away and then disappeared from the martial emperor's sight. If we don't get rid of these 2, they will definitely become a great threat in the future. Long Fengyu felt a wave of apprehension in his heart. This was too terrifying. The 2 successors of the 7 Knights Villa would definitely be extraordinary people in the future. With me here, what is there to be afraid of? The martial emperor sneered. In front of me, they will forever be 2 clowns. Jiang Feng stood at the side and did not say anything. The fact that the martial emperor did not put Jiang Yi in his eyes made him even happier. If Jiang Yi was targeted by the martial emperor, then even if he died, he would protect Jiang Ye's safety. Everyone can die, but Jiang Yi must live. Let's go, don't let Li Fan wait for too long. The martial emperor continued to lead the way, bringing along the remaining few fighting forces and walked forward. They left the castle from the back and came to a courtyard outside. The courtyard was very big, as wide as half a football field. And a young man wearing a green robe and armor, riding on a tall horse, was holding his crescent moon blade. Following the sound of the horse's hooves, he slowly approached them. Guan Wenbao. That's right. Guan Wenbao held the crescent moon blade in his hand horizontally. If you have thought about it, you must first ask the big blade in my hand. Old Guan, let's make it clear, you are not the only one showing off in this trial. A British man wearing a white suit sat on top of a pillar at the side. This man was none other than Guan Wenbao's good friend, Yan Kai. I still want to play with them. The left and right protectors of the 7 heroes Villa Ha. Jiang Feng looked at the 2 of them, his eyebrows slightly raised. With the 2 of you going out together, it seems like this trial will not be easy. Who can stop me? The martial emperor did not care about the 2 of them at all. To the martial emperor, only Li Fan could be considered a worthy opponent. Martial emperor right? Guan Wenbao raised his crescent moon blade and walked in front of the martial emperor. Guan clan's descendant, Guan Wenbao requests a battle. Against you, I disdain to make a move. The martial emperor was a little tired. He even suspected that this was a trap that Li Fan deliberately set for him. He purposely arranged these people to wear down his fighting spirit and then easily win. However, he was thinking too much. The longer he dragged it out, the stronger my fighting spirit would be. The moment he was defeated, I will definitely take his head and hang it on the wall, letting him see how I unify and conquer the whole world. Everyone, there is no need to be anxious. You are already close to our villa lord. Yan Kai stretched and stood up, reminding Jiang Feng and the others, as long as you pass this trial, you will be able to see him. Then what about the undying evil Buddha, Imperial Concubine Zhou? Is she not participating in the game this time? Jiang Feng immediately asked. She is not participating. Yan Kai shrugged his shoulders. At least someone needs to stay back. With us two brothers stopping for the second last trial, it will be fine. Don't worry, the two of us will definitely serve you well. Don't speak nonsense. Guan Wenbao did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yan Kai always said these kinds of words that would cause people to misunderstand. Was this his natural attribute? Is what this Dao grandpa said wrong? Yan Kai was stunned for a moment, looking at Guan Wenbao with a puzzled expression. Where is it wrong? Oh, Guan pointed out. Forget it, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Guan Wenbao was also speechless. Seems like it was indeed a natural attribute. Who is going to fight? With his generals fighting as the emperor, the martial emperor naturally would not personally take action. Along the way, he had taken all kinds of actions, making Jiang Feng seem like an idle person. But Jiang Feng was also a precious combat strength. It was not suitable to use him in this situation. Long Fangyu, Niu Xuan, Qing Mohan, the three of you go. Jiang Feng naturally understood the martial emperor's thoughts, so he said. Niu Xuan was stunned. Jiang Feng handed a jade flute to Qing Mohan, confirming it. That's right, Niu Zhangman, it is time for you to shine. Niu Xuan was dumbfounded. Chapter 1663. Even if Niu Xuan is an idiot, he understands that his meager power is not enough in the eyes of this group of people. Let him go and fight. What can he use to fight? Jiang Feng's thinking is very simple. This guy has been idling for half a day. It is time to go. Although he is a bit trash, he can still be considered as a fighting force. There is a saying, no matter how small a fly is, it is still a piece of meat. Although Niu Xuan's strength is not even comparable to a fly. I am willing to do my part. Long Fangyu knows that it is time for them to contribute their strength. Although he is only at the peak of perfection, he is not too far off from a generation's grandmaster. With the help of Niu Xuan, a grandmaster expert, and Qing Mohan, a sound wave expert, Long Fangyu is somewhat confident. He was someone who had an agreement with Jiang Feng. This time, the reason why Jiang Feng brought him into the group of 6 was so that he could get some results and get more credit. If Li Fan is defeated and the Li family is destroyed, then this is a huge cake. How much he can eat will depend on how much he has to pay. Sect leader Niu, let us attack Guan Wenbao together first. Long Fangyu pulls out a sword, turns around and says to Niu Xuan, let Qing Mohan support us with sound wave from behind. Alright. Niu Xuan says in his heart, if the three of them attack together, it should be enough to deal with that Guan Wenbao. Damn it, so what if you ride a horse? What is the use of riding a horse now? Instead, it is a burden. Long Fangyu gives the order and the two of them instantly pounce towards Guan Wenbao. Long Fangyu thrusts the sword in his hand towards the horse's leg. Niu Xuan directly kicks Guan Wenbao, preparing to kick him off the horse. On the other side, a few sword sounds fly out from Qing Mohan's flute and attack Guan Wenbao from a distance. Guan Wenbao is not panicking. He raises his horse's head and front leg and directly dodges Long Fangyu's attack. At the same time, he raised his saber and swept it on Niu Xuan's body, immediately cutting off one of his arms. Blood and his arm flew out together. accompanied by Niu Shuian's painful cries that resounded in the courtyard. When Cheng Mohan's sword sound reached Guan Wenbao, it was blocked by an invisible force field and slid to the other side. Because of the integration of internal force, the sound of the sword was also affected by Yan Kai's Tai Chi divine exercise and was obediently led to the side. At the same time, the blade in Guan Wenbao's hand fell down. Long Fengyu was forced to roll on the ground in a sorry state. Using a graceful donkey roll, he barely managed to dodge Guan Wenbao's blade. But his hair bun had been chopped off, and his hair hung loosely like a ghost. Lisa's front hooves landed on the ground, and her back hooves kicked Long Fengyu into the air. Just as Long Fengyu flew up from the pain, Guan Wenbao instantly turned around and slashed at Long Fengyu's waist, cutting him in half. Poor Long Fengyu, an ambitious and ruthless person, but in the end, his head was separated from his body and he was buried on the Li family's island. Niu Shuin had lost an arm and was bitterly resentful of the world. But seeing that Long Fengyu had lost his life, he immediately calmed down. "Miss Cheng, I'm sorry." Guan Wenbao was a stubborn person, and he did not have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. He directly rode on his war horse and rushed towards Cheng Mohan. At the same time, he dragged his crescent moon blade on the ground, waiting to cut Cheng Mohan into two. Enough! Cheng Mohan was also one of his generals, and he would not allow anything to happen to her. Thus, he directly made his move. With a wave of the folding fan in his hand, a huge black tiger flew out and directly pounced on Lisa, knocking the strong war horse to the ground. Guan Wenbao was afraid that Lisa would have any mishaps, so he raised his blade and slashed the black tiger away. On the other hand, Lisa's body was already covered with scratches. Guan Wenbao patted its butt and let it go first. Lisa was Guan Wenbao's treasure. Even Yang Shuiyue, who had followed Guan Wenbao for a long time, felt that Lisa's position in Guan Wenbao's heart was more important than her. Lisa was psychic and knew her master's intention, so she ran to the side. That black tiger pounced again, and this time, it directly pounced towards Guan Wenbao's throat. Guan Wenbao held his crescent moon blade horizontally, and a Tai Chi diagram appeared in front of him. When the black tiger pounced on the diagram, its body was twisted and fell to the side. The two of you together are indeed powerful. The black tiger returned to Jiang Feng's side. Its master opened his folding fan again and looked at Guan Wenbao and Yan Kai. The two of you actually managed to train to the strength of a semi-sage. This is truly worthy of celebration. Thank you for the compliment. Yan Kai did not stand on ceremony and laughed. This Taoist is handsome and smart. It's only right that I have such achievements. Jiang Feng thought to himself, this brother is really thick-skinned. Does he not know how to be humble at all? Everyone said that Yan Kai, the abandoned disciple of Wudong's sect, was pompous. It seemed that the rumors were true. He and Guan Wenbao, one flamboyant and the other steady, were a good pair of partners. They complemented each other's shortcomings. Since this is the last round, let me personally spar with the two of you. Jiang Feng put away his folding fan and seemed to be serious. Fists and kicks are silent. If the two of you die, don't blame me. Life and death are decreed by fate. Riches and honor are determined by the heavens. Guan Wenbao said bluntly, bring it on. As he spoke, he activated the ability of the martial god's true body. This martial god's true body transformed into a warhorse and galloped to the front of Guan Wenbao. Guan Wenbao directly leaped onto the horse. Come on. Jiang Feng did not even take out his sword. He only let his black tiger pounce on Guan Wenbao. The black tiger seemed to be Jiang Feng's clone. It was nearly 4 meters long and looked very terrifying. However, at this moment, a black and white Tai Chi diagram appeared on the ground. It had a radius of 2 meters and protected Guan Wenbao within it. The tiger pounced over, but its body suddenly sank and lay heavily on the ground, as if it had been sucked in by the Tai Chi diagram. Jiang Feng was also very impressed with Yan Kai's martial arts. This kind of control of power was probably Yan Kai alone since ancient times. The power of Tai Chi could actually be used in this way. The tiger was sucked in. Guan Wenbao rode the warhorse and arrived in front of the tiger. He slashed at the tiger's head. The tiger raised its head and used its teeth to bite Guan Wenbao's crescent moon blade. The two of you work well together. However, even if you two are half-saints, you still won't be able to achieve the effect of a saint. Jiang Feng reminded them, what's more, even a saint is not my match. As soon as Jiang Feng finished speaking, the tiger suddenly resisted Yan Kai's Tai Chi diagram. It stood up and let out a shocking roar. The entire castle seemed to tremble as the Tai Chi diagram shattered. Guan Wenbao's body was also sent flying and fell heavily into the distance. Chapter 1664. The difference in strength was too great. After learning the true immortal technique, Jiang Feng's strength was close to that of the five saints. Although Guan Wenbao and Yan Kai were already very strong, especially when they joined forces, they could almost deal with a true saint-level expert. But after all, their strength was incomparable to Jiang Feng's. Thus, after Jiang Feng showed his true strength, he was instantly defeated. Jiang Feng, on the other hand, was not happy. He knew that Li Fan intentionally let the two of them experience this battle of great disparity in strength. Only by letting them fight a battle of life and death with a saint-level expert would they understand the gap between them and the saints, and also have a direction to work towards. Jiang Feng felt that after this battle, with Guan Wenbao and Yan Kai's talent, they would most likely quickly break through the shackles of the saint level and enter a higher realm. Li Fan, your people have already been defeated, it's time for you to come out and show your face, right? Jiang Feng shouted loudly. The martial emperor crossed his arms and stood behind, watching coldly from the side. After fighting all the way until now, it was time to meet the main character. Master is waiting for you in the tower behind. Wang Xiaoren stood on the roof of a nearby building and said to them in a clear voice, everyone please. Li Fan, we are coming. The martial emperor could not wait any longer. He did not even take the stairs. He bent his knees slightly and suddenly leaped up, jumping more than 10 meters high. He smashed the wall with his palm and jumped into the tower. Jiang Feng did not dare to be slow. He called Qing Mohan and hurriedly followed behind. The two of them entered the tower one after another, only to see Li Fan sitting on a throne inlaid with gold and jade, circulating his qi to regulate his breathing in boredom. You're finally here. Li Fan opened his eyes and looked at the martial emperor. How many are left? We and Jiang Feng. The martial emperor patted the dust off his body and looked at Li Fan. How is it? You did not expect this, right? Today it is our turn to join forces. Fortunately, I thought about it. Li Fan shrugged. Every dog has its day. Moreover, my good second brother is a fence-sitter. Isn't it bad to talk behind people's backs? Jiang Feng waved his fan and jumped into the hole. He stood in front of Li Fan with a smile on his face. If you have anything to say, why don't we talk face to face? Compared to you guys, I'd rather chat with Miss Cheng. Li Fan's gaze fell on the third beauty who came in. Miss Cheng, we're classmates after all. Aren't you going to say something when you see me? It is my honor that Villa Master Li still remembers me. Cheng Mohan tenderly smiled. However, this little girl has a short life and is not worth mentioning. Manor Lord, please don't take this little girl to heart. How can I not take it to heart? Li Fan smiled. Miss Cheng is beautiful and plays the piano well. Which man could forget you? Third brother, you seem to be in a good mood. Jiang Feng waved his fan as he looked at Li Fan. At this time, you're still talking to a beauty. The two of you are indeed very strong, but your attractiveness to me is not as good as this Miss Cheng. Li Fan revealed a very modest smile. After all, the two of you are my defeated opponents. Jiang Feng, don't make a move first. The martial emperor waved his hand. I will first meet with this Villa Master Li. Just as he finished speaking, the martial emperor had already appeared in front of Li Fan. Following that, he sent a palm straight towards Li Fan's head. Immortal Azure Emperor see coming. If this slap landed, even an iron ball would be flattened. However, Li Fan only raised his arm and used his elbow to block the martial emperor's palm. They're fighting just like that. Li Fan did not have the slightest bit of fear. He instantly bounced up and followed up with a flying knee. The martial emperor also extended his hand to block it, but the power of the flying knee still forced the martial emperor to take a step back. Following that, Li Fan continuously turned around and kicked 12 times in a row, forcing the martial emperor to retreat. It was obvious that he was at a disadvantage. The martial emperor didn't even have the time to speak. Li Fan's continuous kicks left him powerless to fight back. He didn't even have the chance to find a flaw in his attack. The martial emperor wanted to use his qing gong to fly back, but Li Fan seemed to be stuck to him, steadily maintaining a distance, making the martial emperor feel especially sullen. Bam! In the end, the martial emperor used the great non-phase technique and pushed it onto Li Fan's body. However, Li Fan raised his leg and chopped down like a battle axe, directly splitting the energy sent by the martial emperor in half. Flame Emperor Prairie Fire. The martial emperor finally found a little bit of an opportunity. He directly sent out a palm, bringing with it a surging flame, towards Li Fan. Bam! Li Fan, on the other hand, was very ordinary. He kicked his leg, and his foot collided with the martial emperor's palm. A powerful force spread out, and then the two of them took a step back at the same time. How did you train? The martial emperor frowned deeply. How did your leg technique improve so quickly? Do you want to know? Li Fan laughed. Take me as your master, I can teach you. You're courting death. The martial emperor flew into a rage. This Li Fan was too arrogant. Do you think you're the only one who's improving? The power on the martial emperor's body exploded. His golden energy fused with the green light, forming an even clearer set of dragon-shaped armor that draped over his body. Li Fan, your time of death has come. As the martial emperor spoke, a green great spear appeared in his hand. The azure dragon was most proficient in using long spears. At this time, the martial emperor had fused his Xuanyan sword technique together, forming his own set of spear techniques. One spear to decide the 9 provinces. The spear was like a dragon. That green great spear instantly arrived in front of him. However, Li Fan's palm moved outwards, trying to push aside the martial emperor's spear. However, the martial emperor had already put on his avatar. He was 4 meters tall, and his great spear was more than 5 meters long. The power on his spear directly broke through Li Fan's palm and pierced right in front of Li Fan's throat. Li Fan's hands moved like shadows, grabbing onto the spear's shaft, forcefully grabbing onto the spear, stopping it in front of his throat. Ignorant. The martial emperor sneered. He raised his spear, and actually lifted Li Fan's body high up into the air. Show me your true abilities. All right. Li Fan nodded his head. Following that, his body suddenly emitted a blue and white lightning, swimming in all directions. Heavenly Thunder Transformation, 3rd stage. The martial emperor had used his true abilities, and Li Fan had also used his full strength to show his respect. Li Fan's body also expanded to a height of 3 meters. He pressed down once again, forcing the martial emperor's spear back, and he himself fell to the ground. Heaven Punishing Slash. The martial emperor took out his great spear, raised it high, and then smashed it down heavily towards Li Fan. Open. Li Fan turned around and kicked the martial emperor's great spear away. Then, taking advantage of the fact that the martial emperor was wide open, he kicked him in the chest. However, the martial emperor did not budge. Instead, he slapped his palm on Li Fan's ankle, causing Li Fan's calf to go numb, and he took a step back. This armor was very light and thin, but it could cooperate with Jiang Feng's nanocore to unleash the power of a saint. Although he only had the power of a saint, the sword in his hand had the power to kill a celestial. This thing even surpassed the Shangfang sword. It was a real super divine weapon. Die! Jiang Feng descended from the sky and actually used the Amei-Sek's white horse treads on the snow. His body was in the air, and his sword went straight for Li Fan's head. Swoosh! Li Fan's body slid backwards, and Jiang Feng's sword stabbed into the ground. Bang! The ground directly cracked, and several black lights shone out from the cracks. The martial emperor and Li Fan both looked at Jiang Feng, and the two of them finally realized how terrifying Jiang Feng was. I underestimated you. When the martial emperor said this, his heart was filled with endless hidden bitterness. He originally thought that just giving Jiang Feng 3 pages of the true immortal arts would not have much of an impact. Who knew that he would actually take a different approach and come up with such a brilliant move? Your Majesty the martial emperor, let me help you. Jiang Feng pulled out the black sword, held it in his hand, and looked at Li Fan. Third brother, how is it? This is a set that I created, called the Flying Immortal Formless Sword. It is very powerful. It was possible for Li Fan to condense his inner force into a sword, but to condense it into this kind of peerless divine weapon was basically impossible. Your Majesty the martial emperor, let's work together and kill him first. Now that things have come to this, we can only do so. Although the martial emperor did not really like fighting 2 against 1, he could only do so for now. I will restrain him, you directly kill him. As the martial emperor spoke, he stretched out his hand and began to attack Li Fan. The martial emperor condensed that long spear again and flicked it towards Li Fan. Almost in a flash, the martial emperor's long spear arrived in front of Li Fan, and then a row of spear shadows were thrusted out. Li Fan's hands moved continuously, constantly blocking these spear shadows. But Jiang Feng once again descended from the sky, thrusting his sword towards Li Fan. Jiang Feng's flying immortal formless sword was like a shadow, and in the blink of an eye, it had already arrived above Li Fan's head. With the martial emperor and Jiang Feng working together to unleash this move, even Li Fan would find it difficult to block. Dragon soaring through the 9 heavens. Under Jiang Feng's sharp sword, Li Fan could only quickly retreat. In a flash, he appeared 20 meters away. Brother, it seems like you can't do it this time. Jiang Feng held the black sword and looked at Li Fan. Why don't you let Imperial concubine Zhou come out and help you? Maybe she can help a little? No need. Just as Li Fan finished speaking, the lightning on his body suddenly disappeared, and his body gradually returned to the appearance of an ordinary person. The martial emperor was the same. He had also returned to his original height, and the time for him to forcefully activate his avatar had also passed. It seems like the two of you have consumed a lot of energy in this battle. At this moment, Jiang Feng was clearly the strongest person on the scene. The black sword in his hand was too much of a threat to Li Fan and the martial emperor. Thank you for your concern, second brother. I still have some ability to protect myself. As Li Fan spoke, his body shook once again, and blue lightning swam out. He once again entered the power of the first stage of the heavenly thunder transformation. He had previously trained hard, and had truly entered the power of the 10 saints, which was the power of an inferior immortal. Now that he had activated the first stage of the heavenly thunder transformation, it was the power of the 20 saints. At the same time, Li Fan's legs were wrapped in 2 pieces of leg armor, one red and one white. They were the incarnations of the white tiger and the divine fox, which made Li Fan's strength slightly stronger. Azure Dragon's power. Black Tortoise's power. No one knew when the martial emperor had gone to attack the Black Tortoise Pagoda again. He held the azure spear, and his body was covered in a black armor. The martial emperor also held back a certain amount of strength. Sure enough, both of you are hiding something. Everything was as Jiang Feng had expected. Your Majesty the martial emperor, please help me continue to restrain Li Fan. Oh? Do you really think so? The martial emperor no longer trusted Jiang Feng. He knew that if he continued to fight with Li Fan, Jiang Feng, this unparalleled divine weapon, might stab into his heart from the back. How about, the two of us join hands? Li Fan winked at the martial emperor. The two of us kill Jiang Feng together? What do you think? Don't try to deceive me. Both of you are nothing good. Chapter 1666. The martial emperor did not have much trust in Jiang Feng. After all, Jiang Feng did not give him the feeling that he could trust him. The martial emperor was not stupid. He knew that Jiang Feng was an extremely ambitious person. As for Li Fan looked like a good guy, righteous and generous. Actually, this kid was very black-bellied. Whoever thought that he was chivalrous, simple was an idiot. The only person he could temporarily trust was the bare-head man. Unfortunately, he was too strong and brainless, and was directly killed by Li Fan's disciple in the previous battle. That so-called 100-man army could only have some fighting strength when they all attacked together. Your Majesty the Martial Emperor, with your wisdom, you should understand who is the most beneficial to cooperate with right now. Jiang Feng was like a successful lobbyist. He continued to throw out an olive branch to the Martial Emperor. Li Fan is our common enemy, right? And between you and me, there is no conflict of interest. I will definitely help you. If there was no Jiang Yi, I might still believe what you said. The Martial Emperor said directly, if I want to get rid of Li Fan, I'm afraid that little girl Jiang Yi will not sit still and wait for death, right? If you do it for her, you will definitely bite back at me. Those who achieve great things do not bother about trifles. Jiang Feng had a smile on his face. The Martial Emperor can trust me a little more in this aspect. I beg to differ. Look, I'm so loyal, but you don't trust me. Jiang Feng sighed lightly, then looked at Li Fan. Third brother, since the Martial Emperor is not willing to cooperate with me, then how about you cooperate with me? The Martial Emperor almost vomited blood. This was called loyalty? Motherfucker. All right. Li Fan immediately agreed, causing the Martial Emperor to almost vomit blood. However, I can't guarantee that I won't stab you in the back. Li Fan then said, I can't guarantee that you won't stab me in the back. After all, you and I don't like each other. That's true, then it's going to be difficult. Jiang Feng looked at the two of them. Could it be that the three of us are going to have a chaotic battle? The problem was, the three of them fighting each other was the most disadvantageous plan. Once the battle royale began, the three of them would restrain each other, and it would be difficult for them to go all out. The three of us can be considered to be at the pinnacle of the current martial arts world. Li Fan thought for a moment and said, it's not good to be so hesitant. Why don't the two of you join hands? Aren't you afraid? Jiang Feng raised his eyebrows. When has little tyrant Li Fan ever been afraid? Li Fan laughed heartily. You two feel free to come. His words caused Jiang Feng and the martial monarch to hesitate. Both of them were not easy to deal with, especially Jiang Feng, who was very suspicious. For Li Fan to say something like that, did he have something to rely on? Could it be that he had a way to defeat both of them at the same time? Launch a nuclear weapon? This should be his last resort. He was so confident because he definitely had a good plan that made him very confident. Jiang Feng brat, just watch. I will defeat Li Fan alone. The martial monarch could no longer hold it in. He was originally incomparably proud, but today he was actually restrained by the other two brats, causing him to be fearful. This was not like him at all. Looking at Li Fan, he was rather carefree, like a true expert. He was a martial monarch, he should be able to sweep through everything. Watch my godly spear. The martial monarch grabbed the great spear and directly leaped over. The spear was like a dragon. Li Fan raised his leg and directly kicked the martial monarch's great spear away. At the same time, with a hand blade, a lightning blade appeared and slashed to the side, forcing Jiang Feng, who took the opportunity to sneak attack, to retreat. Didn't I tell you to watch? When the martial monarch saw that Jiang Feng had made a move, he immediately became somewhat angry. I'm also a little itchy. Jiang Feng chuckled. The martial monarch could not be bothered with him. Right now, the most important thing was to determine the victor between them and Li Fan. If he did not get rid of Li Fan, he would have a way to destroy the entire Li family island, and he would not be able to carry out his plan to destroy the human race. As for the clown Jiang Feng, he would just let him mess around on the side. Li Fan, hand over your life. The martial monarch brandished his spear horizontally, and with a sweep of 1,000 troops, he once again slapped towards Li Fan. Li Fan once again raised his leg and kicked away the spear that the martial monarch had thrown over. He was wearing the white tiger and divine fox leg armor, so he could contend against the martial monarch's Azure Dragon Spear. Azure Dragon Point Water. Li Fan's body flashed, and suddenly appeared behind the martial monarch. Following that, he stabbed his leg, and instantly kicked the martial monarch's back. Clang! The black tortoise armor was incomparably hard. It shook off Li Fan's leg. My black tortoise armor is invincible. The martial monarch laughed out loud. Just you alone, don't even think about breaking my armor. Clang! Another metallic sound rang out, and a row of dazzling sparks lit up on the armor on the martial monarch's arm. Jiang Feng stood at the side, looking at the black sword in his hand. He could not help but exclaim, "Aya, your defense is really not bad." Damn thing! The martial monarch was burning with rage. This fellow had indeed made his move. Don't be angry, I'm just trying out your armor. As Jiang Feng spoke, he once again raised his black sword. The light on the sword actually blazed even more fiercely. Why don't you let me try again? The martial monarch was not confident. He looked at his arm, and there was a huge sword scar on it. It was a ghastly sight. Jiang Feng's sword was too terrifying. Although the defense of the black tortoise armor was astonishing, it might not be 100% effective against a divine weapon. Let me try first. Li Fan suddenly kicked out, and directly sent Jiang Feng's body flying. Bam! Jiang Feng's body smashed into the nearby castle, causing dust to billow into the air. One spear to settle the 9 provinces. The martial monarch took the opportunity to stab with his spear, chasing after Li Fan. Dragon Lock Divine Weapon. Li Fan used his leg to execute the dragon subduing sword's move. His leg directly locked onto the martial monarch's spear shaft, causing the martial monarch's spear to be restrained and unable to be pulled out. Thunder Dragon Blast. Li Fan clasped his hands together, and blue lightning appeared in his palms. He was prepared to slash out with a lightning blade at any time and directly take the martial monarch's head. The martial monarch was not careless either. His other hand condensed a golden radiance, and he was about to strike out with his palm, using the wind from his palm to kill Li Fan. But at this time, a huge black sword descended from the sky. It was unknown when Jiang Feng had jumped out, but the black sword in his hand had actually become more than 10 meters long, like a divine weapon of a giant spirit god. He directly held it in his hand, and it descended from the sky, descending towards Li Fan and the martial monarch. Thunder Dragon Blast. White Emperor supports the heavens. Li Fan and the martial monarch did not dare to be negligent. The two of them threw out the moves in their hands at the same time. A 5-meter-long lightning blade and a 7-meter-long golden palm print soared into the sky, meeting the gigantic black sword head-on. Boom! It was as if the air had exploded. The entire space was trembling. The black sword collapsed, the palm print shattered, and the lightning blade exploded. The three of them were sent flying by the powerful force, smashing into the ground in all directions. Chapter 1667. At this moment, the three of them were almost equal in terms of strength. None of them was weaker than the other. Li Fan had said that they were all top-notch experts in the martial arts world. Actually, Li Fan was being modest. The strength of the three of them had long surpassed the scope of martial artists. Martial Emperor had cultivated the first volume of the perfected immortal arts and was already approaching the level of an exalted immortal. His own strength was also at the level of an inferior immortal. Coupled with the assistance of 2 divine weapons, his strength was explosive. As for Jiang Feng, he had cultivated 3 pages of the perfected immortal arts. Although his own strength was only at the level of a martial sage, he had an unparalleled divine weapon in hand. Coupled with his resourcefulness, no one dared to underestimate him. As for Li Fan, with his own cultivation of Tai Chi in reverse and the training in the gravity room, his strength had surpassed the martial arts world and was close to that of the immortal realm. Could a martial artist cultivate to the level of an immortal? Martial Emperor did not believe it, Jiang Feng did not believe it, but Li Fan had really done it. The three of them jumped out of the pit and started fighting again. Li Fan and Martial Emperor were basically fighting head-on. When faced with Jiang Feng's divine sword, they chose to avoid it or join forces to repel it. After a few clashes with the divine weapons, no matter if it was Li Fan's leg armor or the martial monarch's spear and armor, deep sword marks had appeared on them. Li Fan could even hear the divine fox and white tiger groaning. They would not be able to hold on for long under the attack of this Azura divine weapon. "We're having fun." As Jiang Feng spoke, he picked up his sword again. The sword instantly turned into a 10-meter-long sword. A glint flashed across Li Fan's eyes. He had been waiting for this moment. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Jiang Feng. While Jiang Feng was still gathering the power of the sword, he directly sent a flying kick straight at his face. "Brother, you've been tricked." Jiang Feng smiled, and his huge black sword suddenly disappeared without a trace. At the same time, a normal 3 feet long profound sword pierced towards Li Fan's leg. Li Fan didn't hold back in this kick. He originally wanted to finish off Jiang Feng in one move, but who would have thought that Jiang Feng was one step ahead and actually dug a pit here to wait for him? His leg armor had also reached its limit. If he were to face this sword, he was afraid that his leg armor would be pierced through. Li Fan's mind spun quickly. In that instant he suddenly stretched out both hands towards Jiang Feng. Almost all the inner force in his body condensed in his palms. Dragon Spitting Pearl. Bang! The white chi bead shot out from Li Fan's palm with a shockwave, heading straight for Jiang Feng. At the same time, Li Fan's body stopped moving forward due to the recoil of the shockwave and flew backward. Jiang Feng didn't expect that Li Fan would be able to save himself. He was a little displeased. With a flick of his sword, he easily cut the white chi bead in half. He then raised his sword and chased after Li Fan relentlessly. The martial emperor also leaped up and appeared behind Li Fan. The spear in his hand stabbed towards Li Fan's back, as if he wanted to pierce through Li Fan. But on the other side, Jiang Feng's sword was also chasing after him. Li Fan's body was still under the inertia of the recoil and had no way to avoid the two of them. At this critical moment, Li Fan was in danger. However, Li Fan was someone who had experienced countless battles. He did not hesitate and instantly retracted his heavenly thunder transformation, and then his leg armor disappeared. Li Fan's entire body was covered in a scarlet red light. 2 red fox tails flew out and instantly wrapped around Jiang Feng and the martial emperor's bodies. The two of them didn't react in time because they were chasing after Li Fan with all their strength and didn't have any spare energy. 2 thick and powerful tails coiled around the two of them, directly pulling them together and smashing them heavily into the ground. Pang! The two of them collided with each other before being flung out and thrown to the ground. Li Fan's body flipped and landed on the wall of the castle. The 3 fox tails on his back returned to their normal size and pierced into the wall. His entire body hung on it. "Is it fun, the two of you?" Li Fan's hair turned scarlet red. When he displayed the power of the fox god, his emotions were more complicated and full of provocation. He could feel the emotions of the 9-tailed fox god. It was filled with a desire for freedom and a desire to take revenge on the world. But at the same time, she had a kind of fear towards Li Fan. Because Li Fan had seen that great cosmos god before. He was ultimately a sovereign and could casually create a terrifying absolute art like the heavenly thunder transformation. The reason why he let her off was because of Lin Tong. Regardless of whether she would have any ambitions in the future, the current 9-tailed fox god was very honest. She wholeheartedly supported Li Fan to become the strongest. Li Fan hung on the wall. Looking at the two of them below, he was once again filled with confidence. Fortunately, he had experienced countless battles in the cultivation room. At that time, Li Fan was constantly fighting with his opponents. This ability to adapt to the situation had practically become Li Fan's battle instinct. Relying on the power of that fox doesn't seem like your character. Jiang Feng held onto the black sword and looked at Li Fan, who was hanging in the air. "Don't you always like to rely on your own strength to fight?" "That's right. If you have the guts, use your own strength to fight." The martial emperor sneered. "The two of you are relying on the Beyond Heaven and the Azura Dao. You don't have the qualifications to say this to me, right?" Li Fan retorted. Less nonsense. Watch my move. The martial emperor rushed towards Li Fan and directly struck out with a palm. A golden palm imprint soared into the sky and headed straight for Li Fan. Li Fan's legs bounced off the wall. He pulled out his tail and flipped in the air, dodging the martial emperor's palm imprint. A 7-meter-long palm imprint appeared on the wall of the castle. And Li Fan's body had already descended from the sky. He kicked towards the martial emperor. Under the support of the 9-tailed fox god, Li Fan's speed increased by several times. In an instant, he arrived in front of the martial emperor. The martial emperor used the armor on his chest to block against Li Fan's kick. A white force exploded from his back, but he still withstood it. The martial emperor grabbed Li Fan's ankle with one hand and raised his other hand, preparing to give Li Fan another palm strike. However, the 3 tails behind Li Fan suddenly flew out. Just like his piercing legs, they suddenly shot towards the martial emperor's body, hitting the top of his head, chest, and lower abdomen. Bam! The martial emperor's armor was smashed into a dent, and he was sent flying backwards. Jiang Feng suddenly appeared above Li Fan's head, and his sword pierced towards the top of Li Fan's head. Flying immortal formless sword. This nimble sword technique, coupled with Jiang Feng's divine weapon, was indeed powerful. However, Li Fan's tail shot out once again, directly bypassing Jiang Feng's sword and coiling around his body, destroying his center of gravity. It pulled him down and pulled him in front of Li Fan, turning him into a live target. Angrily behead the 3rd prince. Li Fan swung his leg towards Jiang Feng's head. Chapter 1668. Li Fan had trained countless times, and his fighting method was very flexible. Although Jiang Feng's current fighting method was beyond his calculation, he quickly adapted and found the best way to deal with it. Although Jiang Feng's sword was powerful, his body was still at the sacred level and could not withstand his attack. At this time, Li Fan angrily beheaded the 3rd prince and was ready to kick Jiang Feng's head. However, Jiang Feng suddenly threw out his black sword. This black sword, under the control of his great non-phase method, spun and slashed toward Li Fan. If Li Fan kicked Jiang Feng to death, his head would probably be cut off by this divine weapon. He had to let go of his tail and used his roaming dragon 9th heaven Qinggong to retreat 10 meters away, dodging Jiang Feng's sword. Jiang Feng stretched out his hand, and the black sword fell back into his hand. Brother, you are too confident. I will kill all of you. Martial Emperor's successive failures made him angry to the extreme. The martial monarch jumped over again and fought with the 2 of them. The 3 of them fought for more than 10 minutes, back and forth, and for a while, they were unable to determine the winner. However, their strength could not be used indefinitely. After more than 10 minutes, Li Fan and Martial Emperor were the first to consume too much energy and slowly dissipated the power of their transformation. Martial Emperor's Azure Dragon Spear and Black Tortoise armor had disappeared, and the Golden Dragon swam out again and flew beside him. Li Fan's Fox Spirit possession also disappeared. He returned to his ordinary appearance, stood there, and ate 2 soul-restoring pills. Only Jiang Feng was a bit better, but the black divine weapon in his hand could no longer turn into a giant sword, so it was a bit less threatening. It seems that victory and defeat can't be decided in an instant. Martial Emperor relied on the Golden Dragon to protect his body, floating in the air, looking down at Li Fan and Jiang Feng. Li Fan, I guess your fate is not over. Your Majesty Martial Emperor, no need to sigh. Jiang Feng revealed a confident smile. It's almost time, it's my turn to show off. You still have a move? Li Fan felt a bit bad. Yeah, since you're ready to use nuclear weapons, I naturally have to do something as well. Jiang Feng chuckled and pointed his finger at the sky. A huge dragon poked its head out of the clouds, bringing with it a terrifying pressure. Dragon God number 1? Li Fan was a little surprised. The Dragon God number 1 had actually descended into the atmosphere? That's right. This is the Dragon God number 1's high-end military strike capability. Jiang Feng explained, Dragon God number 1 is equipped with a quantum strike system. However, it would take some time to apply for this system. During the battle just now, I kept on applying and finally activated the system, allowing Dragon God No. 1 to arrive above the Li family island. Li Fan's frown deepened. As long as the quantum strike lands, the entire Li family island will be obliterated. Of course, if I use this weapon, I will definitely be hunted down by China. However, if I use quantum strike after you, Li Fan, use nuclear weapons, then things will be different. Tactical grade weapons restraining each other. This is the most common practice of some large countries in the world. Everyone has this kind of tactical grade weapon, usually used as a means of threat, restraining each other. Interesting. The martial emperor raised his head to look at the super weapon. He did not expect Jiang Feng to actually have such a deep trick up his sleeve. Third brother, with this, your nuclear weapons are considered useless, right? Jiang Feng winked at Li Fan. Next, can we enter the regular battle? All right. Li Fan accepted his fate. I promise not to use nuclear weapons. That's more like it. Jiang Feng nodded in satisfaction. Then I will not use quantum strike on you. Your Majesty the Martial Emperor, with this, our army can attack? Exactly. The Martial Emperor was overjoyed. With this, his army will regain their combat ability. He used his celestial energy to wrap his voice and shouted, Li Fan's nuclear weapons have lost their effect. I hereby order all allied armies to immediately attack. Flatten the Li family island. The 100-man squad stationed nearby could not wait any longer. They were the first to charge, and the remaining 1,000+ elite soldiers of the various countries all moved as well, charging towards the castle. Li Fan's 7 hero sword guards and grand sword guards simultaneously moved and began to fight against these people. Although the Martial Emperor's army was a motley crew, there were a few British magicians amongst them. They used unique magic to strengthen the army's combat ability. Although the 7 hero sword guards were powerful, when faced with the attack of so many people, they actually found it rather taxing and began to retreat bit by bit. Li Fan, although your sword guards are very elite, in the face of my army, they are still not enough. The Martial Emperor chuckled, standing on the high platform of the castle, staring at his attacking army, incomparably pleased with himself. Today shall be the day of your doom. Is that so? But I still have people watching over me. As soon as Li Fan's words came out, Guan Wenbao, Yan Kai, and the others all entered the fray. Like sharp daggers, they tore apart the allied armies. Subhuti stood guard in front of the castle alone, preventing the Martial Emperor's army from entering. Li Xiaohu and Jiang Yi wandered in the crowd. Their combat ability was also very strong, constantly destroying the enemies in front of them. Not far away from them, Chen Junhua was also waving his large sword, like a god of war, cutting the enemies in front of him into pieces. Leave it to me. Jiang Feng carried his divine weapon, leaped into the crowd, and began to suppress the experts under Li Fan's command. Li Fan was just about to go over to help, but the Martial Emperor controlled the Golden Dragon and blocked in front of him. Where are you going? I am your opponent. Scram. Hee, use your strength to break through my defense. Li Fan's strength was almost depleted. The Martial Emperor was prepared to use his divine dragon to suppress him here, making Li Fan lose his last chance. By Lin Luo, send the celestial honorific. However, Li Fan's expression did not change. After all, he still had his last trump card. Bai Lin Luo's voice sounded in Li Fan's rice grain earphone. Then, from the direction of Li Family Island, there was a dull explosion, as if something had been launched. Then, a black and white painted mech suddenly descended from the sky, and with a bang, it landed behind Li Fan. The mech's hatch opened, the cabin popped out, and Li Fan jumped in. You have fallen. The Martial Emperor was very disdainful. What can this kind of steel machine do? Don't speak too early. Li Fan had already used his spiritual power to take over the celestial honorific system. He operated the mech's limbs and regained control of this mechanical feeling. The celestial honorific had been modified, and at this time, a total of 18 nanocores were operating at the same time, like cannonballs ready to be fired, waiting for Li Fan's orders. Chapter 1669. Using the Celestial Sovereign title, Li Fan immediately felt the energy in his body depleting rapidly. The Celestial Sovereign title amplified Li Fan's combat power by 10 times, but it also made him consume 10 times his physical strength. But Li Fan took out a heavenly essence pill and placed it in his mouth. A steady stream of energy was released from his dantian and entered Li Fan's body. This heavenly essence pill was Luo Xiaofeng's latest creation, which could greatly replenish one's internal energy. Normally, he only needed to place it in his mouth and he would be able to continuously absorb energy from the pill, which could last for about 10 minutes. This heavenly essence pill was extremely expensive to manufacture, and one pill's medicinal value was no less than $1 million. But to Li Fan, eating such a pill in exchange for his powerful combat power was very worth it. Who asked Luo Xiaofeng to be in his hands? Who asked this to be a team battle? Everyone knew that in the process of a team battle, taking pills was a must. Through the earpiece, Li Fan knew that the following battle was also going well. Under the command of Night Rain Tower, the 7 hero sword guards maintained very good combat power and mobility, regained control of the battle rhythm, and slowly pushed back the 1,000-man legion. But the opponent had too many people. If it was a battle of attrition, it would definitely be disadvantageous to leave Family Island. So what if you're wearing a pile of scrap metal? Watch how this emperor breaks you. As the martial emperor spoke, he controlled his 5-clawed golden dragon and soared into the sky, pouncing towards Li Fan. Li Fan controlled the mecha and directly jumped up, turned around and swung his leg, kicking the golden dragon's head, sending this 5-clawed golden dragon flying. This 5-clawed golden dragon wailed and flew back to the martial emperor's side in a sorry state, causing the martial emperor to widen his eyes in shock. What was going on? Why could Li Fan still unleash such strength? All of you lie down for me. Li Fan jumped high, swept past the martial emperor, and smashed into the 1,000-man legion. Jiang Feng saw Li Fan drive the mecha over and was a little surprised. What was the martial emperor doing to actually let Li Fan out? Without hesitation, he stopped his pursuit of Guan Wenbao and charged at Li Fan with his sword. Overturn the heavens and stir the seas. Li Fan, on the other hand, launched a profound dragon ice palm at Jiang Feng. Although Li Fan did not have the power of the cold element, his mecha's right hand was equipped with a powerful cold control system. A frost-attributed palm energy burst forth, charging straight in front of him. Almost 100 people were smashed into ice fragments by this palm, and Jiang Feng's body was also sent flying, smashing heavily on the ground in the distance. Jiang Feng still couldn't understand why Li Fan still had such powerful combat strength. What was that mecha of his used for? Roar! The martial emperor's 100-man team was like wolves and tigers. To be precise, they were indeed like wolves and tigers. They rushed towards Li Fan, as if they wanted to tear Li Fan to shreds. Whoosh! Li Fan directly pulled out a 3-meter-long sword from his back, held it in his hand, and then swept it horizontally. Tornado remnant clouds. A sword energy spread out, instantly shredding more than 10 beastmen. Following that, Li Fan brandished this huge sword, as if a god had descended from the sky, chopping the beastmen in front of him into minced meat. The dragon's subduing sword technique was performed to perfection. So many people, not a single one of them was a match for him. Wearing this mecha, Li Fan could display the strength of an exalted immortal. Who would he be afraid of in front of this motley crew? In 3 minutes, Li Fan had already killed more than half of the 100-man team, and the rest were nothing to be afraid of. The so-called 1,000-man coalition army was already retreating under Li Fan's terrifying strength. The martial emperor stood on the castle watching the scene, his heart trembling. If not for the dignity of the martial emperor, he might have knelt here. Did he fail just like that? My ambition, my empire, you have already lost. At some point, Jade was standing beside the martial monarch. You're right. We've underestimated Li Fan. The battle strength that Li Fan displayed this time made Jade's heart palpitate. A set of steel toys allowed him to display the strength of an exalted immortal? What if one day he made another set of toys and displayed the strength of an exalted immortal? The plan of Sky Beyond Heaven could not be aborted. Since that was the case, there was only one way left. Could it be? My fate is at its end. For the first time, the martial emperor felt despair. He had almost completely mastered the true immortal technique, but he was still one move behind and lost to Li Fan. As for the 100-man team that Sky Beyond Heaven had nurtured for him, they were quickly wiped out. We still have another way. Although Jade didn't really like the martial emperor, he was the only hope of Sky Beyond Heaven. What other plan do you have? The martial emperor didn't really trust anyone anymore, and he felt his confidence crumbling. The ambitious emperor of a generation was in a sorry state at this moment. Although Li Fan is strong, he is still a human. Jade said, "You, on the other hand, can follow me back to Sky Beyond Heaven and receive Sky Beyond Heaven's training to become a true expert." Go to Sky Beyond Heaven? When the martial emperor heard this, he subconsciously froze. Didn't you tell me before that the passage to Sky Beyond Heaven can only be passed by true immortals like you? If anyone else thought about it, they would be crushed by the passage and turned into pure energy? Indeed, that passage can only be passed by us. Even if you cultivated the true immortal technique, you still wouldn't be able to enter Sky Beyond Heaven. I told you before, even if you cultivate the true immortal technique and ascend, you will only become nourishment for my Sky Beyond Heaven. This was a vicious plan of Sky Beyond Heaven, and the martial emperor knew about it. However, Sky Beyond Heaven was afraid that their only representative would ascend and commit suicide, so they informed him in advance. However, we have another passage that will allow you to enter Sky Beyond Heaven smoothly. There's another one? Where is it? Follow me first. Jade pointed below where Li Fan was leading the 7 Knights Villa's people, killing in all directions. They will definitely lose, so there's no need for us to stay here. All right. The martial emperor sorted out his emotions. Now that things have come to this, he can only enter Sky Beyond Heaven. Perhaps this might be an opportunity. As long as he can enter Sky Beyond Heaven, he might be able to obtain the complete true immortal technique and cultivate to the power of a Sky Immortal. At that time, I will truly be undefeatable under the heavens. The martial emperor made up his mind and followed Jade out of Li Family Island. On the other side, Li Fan is killing thousands of people, causing the allied army to throw away their helmets and armor, and blood is flowing like a river. Li Fan is too scary. We are not his match at all. Heavens, the martial emperor also ran away. Jiang Feng also slipped away. Quickly run. The remaining people finally started to break down and want to escape, but they found out that they have already been surrounded by the Li Family Island's army. The martial emperor and Jiang Feng have abandoned them and escaped long ago. Their only choice is to put down their weapons and raise their hands to surrender. Li Fan is very magnanimous. He tied these people up and began to judge them on the spot. Chapter 1670. When they came, it was a mighty army of 1,000 people, but in the blink of an eye, there were less than 200 people left, and all of them were injured. Niu Xuan was also lying among them, shivering and not daring to let out a fart. The remaining people that Li Fan knew were the people from the 6 sections. Wang Zhini from Qingcheng sect, Miao Chun from Kunlun sect, and Yu Ruing from Amei sect. Wudong and Shaolin didn't send anyone, and Kong Tong sect also didn't send anyone because they were busy changing their sect leader. 3 of the 6 sects came, which could be considered as giving face to Li Fan. Old friends, it's not the first time we've met. Li Fan looked at the 3 sect leaders who were tied up and laughed coldly. The few of you are not discouraged. For the true immortal art, you even chased me all the way to my Li Family Island. Villa Master Li, we were greedy. Seeing that we're all martial artists, please spare us. Wang Zhini's hands were tied behind him, and his hair was disheveled. He was in an extremely sorry state, and no longer looked like a sect leader. He opened his mouth and begged Li Fan for mercy. Li Fan, even if you kill me, There will be countless Amei disciples who will avenge me. Yu Ruing still braced herself and didn't give Li Fan a good look. Anyway, I don't have long to live. If you want to kill me, then kill me. But if you want to humiliate me, no way. Sect leader Yu is of noble character and unquestionable integrity. You are our role model. Miao Chen just praised and then changed the topic. However, we are all sect leaders and have the heavy responsibility of building the sect. How can we lose our lives in vain? After saying that, he looked at Li Fan and said, Villa Master Li, we were just bewitched by Jiang Feng and Martial Emperor. Actually, we have some respect for Villa Master Li. Bah. Miao Chen. You're really shameless. You don't have the demeanor of a grandmaster. Yu Ruing shouted angrily, greedy for life and afraid of death, you lowly people. Fuck your mother. Wang Zheni couldn't help but yell, you're sick and dying. Are you trying to harm us? Yu Ruing, if you want to die, die alone. Don't drag us down with you. Wang Zheni, you're a dog. Yu Ruing retorted, you don't deserve to be the Qingqing sect leader. It's the entire sect's misfortune that Qingqing has a sect leader like you. Sect leader you should also speak less. We are all martial artists, why do you have to be like this? Miao Chen was still trying to persuade him. But, stop pretending to be a good person. Neither of you is a good person. Enough. Listening to them quarrel, Li Fan felt a headache coming on. Who said I'm going to kill you? Stop blabbering. Li Fan berated, and the three of them were stunned. You won't kill us? Yu Ruing originally wanted to continue cursing, but when she heard Li Fan's words, she didn't know how to react. This is your last chance. Li Fan said, if they dare to come again, they will be killed without mercy. Thank you, Villa Master Li. You are truly benevolent and righteous. That's right. We are too ashamed. In the future, we will definitely not come to your island to cause trouble. At least you know what's good for you. Although she is terminally ill, Yu Ruing doesn't want to die now. If she was really not afraid of death, she wouldn't have desperately searched for this true immortal art. The true immortal art that you want is here. Li Fan took out the revised version of the true immortal art and threw it on the ground. Because the one in my hand is not complete, I slightly revised the true immortal art. Take it back to practice, it should be helpful to you. Li Fan slightly modified the true immortal art, removed some of the cultivation mistakes, and then fused some of his own inner force to create a new true immortal art. Cultivating this true immortal art can raise one's strength to the stage of saint, which is the level of an immortal slave. Some of the experts in Li Fan's sect have already started cultivating. Are you really willing to give it to us? Yu Ring is somewhat shocked and in disbelief. Aren't you guys pestering me for this? Li Fan said, although it is not complete, it can still let you practice to the stage of saint. This internal energy can improve your physique. In this way, your terminal illness should be alleviated. Really? Yu Ruing is still somewhat in disbelief and thinks that this is Li Fan's trap. However, Li Fan is really kind. He had also given this true immortal art to the Holy Maiden and asked her to bring it back to the Devil sect. In order to balance China's martial arts world, Li Fan slightly revised it. He originally wanted to give it to the 6 major sects, but this time he can give it to Yu Ruing and the others in advance. Believe it or not, the boat is here, you guys can go. With a wave of his hand, Li Fan untied the ropes on the 3 of them and then pointed at the boat that they came on. The rest of the people, Li Fan let them all go back to the boat. After all, they are all China's martial artists, so Li Fan does not want to be too ruthless. After the boat sailed to the sea, Yu Ruing and the others are studying the true immortal art that Li Fan revised in the cabin. Is this thing really effective? Miao Chen frowns as she looks at this kung fu. Will Li Fan really be so kind as to let us have it? It's hard to say. Li Fan, this person is cunning and sinister, we have to guard against him. Wang Zheni ponders for a moment. In my opinion, it is better to let sect leader you practice it first and see the effect. Why should I practice it first? Yu Ring's eyes stare, very dissatisfied. Anyway, you are going to die soon, just try it as a last resort. Wang Zhenyi's words almost make Yu Ruing explode in anger. Wang Zhenyi, you are really not a good thing. Yu Ruing originally wanted to teach Wang Zhenyi a lesson, but her power has not recovered and her body is injured. The moment she gets angry, she immediately coughs and her body hurts badly. Look at you, if you don't practice you might really die. Wang Zhenyi mocks. What are you afraid of? What if it is true? Besides, aren't you not afraid of death, sect leader Yu? Sect leader Yu, this poor Taoist also feels that this is your chance. Miao Chen also advises, this poor Taoist will protect you. If anything happens to you, this poor Taoist will definitely do his best to help. You two lowly people. You are jackals of the same lair as that Li Fan. I don't want to practice his lousy kung fu. This kind of thing is definitely harmful. Sigh, that's true, how could Li Fan be so kind? Who is willing to share the good stuff? Let's also stop arguing. Maybe this is Li Fan's plan to sow discord between us. Wang Zhenyi seems to be a little disheartened. Let's not fall into his trap. It is you who are gauging the heart of a gentleman with the heart of a lowly person. A cold voice rings out. The three of them are greatly shocked, turning their heads in unison, looking at the person beside them. Lu Zhu is wearing a black suit, unknowingly standing beside the three of them, looking at them with a smile that is not a smile. And behind him stand 5 experts wearing different colored clothes, each of them emitting a threatening aura. Chapter 1671. Who are you? Wang Zhenyi subconsciously pulls out his long saber and looks at the man in front of him with vigilance along with the other 2 sect leaders. You are actually speaking up for that thief Li Fan. It seems you are also from Seven Knights Villa. Before Yu Ruing can finish her words, a man suddenly steps forward and pierces her throat with his palm, pulling out her throat bone and throwing it to the side. Yu Ruing breathed her last, and the other 2 sect leaders were scared silly. Villa Master Li said that he won't kill us. Wang Zhenyi and Miao Chen hurriedly begs. My Villa Master is kind-hearted and indeed wants to let you go. Lu Zhu coldly snorts. Unfortunately, I don't have this kind of kindness to raise you in scrupulous things. I'll fight you. Miao Chen knows that he can't convince him. He suddenly kicks Lu Zhu with all his might. Wang Zhenyi also pulls out his long saber and jumps up from the side and slashes towards Lu Zhu. The 5 shadows move again. 2 corpses lie on the ground. Lu Zhu expressionlessly waves his hand. Kill everyone on the ship, don't leave a single one alive. Then sink the ship into the sea and destroy the evidence. The 5 of them are the most loyal warriors. Without hesitation, they immediately turn around and leave the cabin. Not long after, waves of screams can be heard from the ship. When Lu Zhu walks out of the cabin, there is not a single living person on the ship. Even the boatmen who came to sail the ship are all killed. Lu Zhu brings the 5 shadows and jumps onto a small boat at the side and detonates the bomb on the boat. Looking at the flame engulfing the huge ship and then slowly sinking into the sea, Lu Zhu finally smiles. I will help you clean up the mess. On this side, after Li Fan solved the crisis on Li Family Island, he left the island and directly went to White Tiger Pagoda. Martial Emperor has already taken 2 holy towers in a row, he can't let him take the last one. According to White Tiger's reminder, Sky Beyond Skies should have a method to open a special passage to Sky Beyond Skies after opening the 4 holy towers. Martial Emperor lost this time, but he will definitely not accept consecutive defeats. Li Fan could already guess that he might also be eyeing the path to the realm beyond Avalon. No matter how the realm beyond heaven used him, if he went to the realm beyond heaven, it would definitely not be a good thing for him. After Li Fan returned to the underwater White Tiger Pagoda, he went straight to Hua's cell. This originally delicate and pretty female immortal was now hanging on the wall with a dazed expression. He didn't know what Chiu had done, but the flowers seemed to have changed. When she saw Li Fan come in, she immediately rubbed her legs and let out a low moan. Chiu, Li Fan shouted. Chiu was wearing the Empress leather clothes as she strolled over. Master, you're back. Chiu, was holding a small leather whip in her hand. When she saw Li Fan, she immediately knelt down in front of him. Li Fan saw that Chiu had a fake male penis hanging from her waist. Damn, what is Chiu playing at? What did you do to her? Li Fan had a bad premonition. After Master left, Chiu used a little trick. It seems like the effect is quite good. This cute little fairy has already become very obedient. However, Chiu feels that she still needs to be taught a little more, so that Master can enjoy her. Damn, why would I enjoy her? Li Fan's forehead was full of cold sweat. I only want her to tell me the information. Sure, Master can have whatever you want. As she spoke, Chiu turned her head, stood up, and whipped the ground. Hurry up and tell Master everything you know. Little slut is willing to say anything. This originally high and mighty flower actually called herself a slut, causing Li Fan to be shocked. How did Chiu torment her to actually make her become a completely different person? Alright, first tell me, why is the realm beyond heaven unwilling to descend to the ground while humans are still alive? Since she has been trained to this extent, she should tell me the secret. Because humans are viruses, bacteria, the nemesis of the realm beyond heaven. Flower's words made Li Fan shocked. What's the situation? The realm beyond heaven is so powerful, yet they are still afraid of humans? No, this virus is love. Immediately after, Flower's words made Li Fan finally understand. In the past, the gods of the realm beyond heaven were a group of powerful races. There were many of us, countless of us. But when we came to Earth, many of us fell in love with humans. Our children have powerful energy. They rebelled against us and killed many experts of the realm beyond heaven. So, some of us had no choice but to exterminate those people, then escape to the realm beyond heaven, isolated from the human world, to avoid contact with humans. Hearing this, Li Fan's heart suddenly sank. My goodness, so this is the reason? The realm beyond heaven has its own set of broken rules, and everyone is quite rigid. After coming to Earth and seeing the rich and colorful life of humans, they were moved. You are worried that if you come to Earth again, there will be people who will lose control and fall in love with Earthlings, and then the remaining army can destroy you? There is a prophecy. Flower's whole body seemed to be itching. She looked at Li Fan in pain, and her eyes were dripping with tears. The people of the realm beyond heaven will give birth to a powerful descendant with an Earthling. He can destroy the realm beyond heaven. I see. Li Fan understood, and he suddenly remembered that there was another flaw in the true immortal technique. In the process of fixing it, he found this flaw. But if he did not practice it to the level of an inferior immortal, it would not show. That is, if a man practiced this technique, he would lose his sexual function. And if a woman practiced this technique, there would probably be some other price to pay. In comparison, although the current martial emperor said that he wanted to conquer his woman, he probably did not have this ability anymore. With the pride of the martial emperor, he definitely could not stand it. But he could only continue to walk on, constantly become stronger, and one day find a way to fix his flaw. The realm beyond heaven, indeed, made a ruthless move. The people of the realm beyond heaven naturally let the martial emperor, who had lost his ability, enter with ease. No wonder they want to destroy the human race. What a ridiculous reason. In his heart, Li Fan cursed 10,000 times. This was really bullshit. To us, this is the terrifying destruction of our race. So, for the sake of our race, the human race must be exterminated. At this moment, Flower seemed to have returned to normal, and she opened her mouth and said to Li Fan, "After all, humans are only the lowest race." Chapter 1672. What nonsense are you spouting? Chiu was furious. She whipped the flower. This damned little girl. Her words made him lose face in front of his master. Would master blame him for not teaching him properly or something? I'm spouting nonsense. The flower cried. When we first arrived, we had a population of 20 million. But now we are left with less than 1 million. Most of them are ordinary celestials, and they have lost their ability to reproduce. Almost all of our elites have died. What a terrifying genocide. Even so, this is not a reason for you to destroy our race. Li Fan said coldly, "You are a foreign race. Can you destroy others for the sake of your own race's survival? Just because you don't want your race to go extinct, can you do it to others? We are of different races, so our standpoints are different." The flower seemed to be more and more clear-headed. When she talked about this issue, she temporarily regained her sanity. "All right, you're right. Since that's the case, I'll go and destroy your race first." As Li Fan spoke, he walked forward and reached out to pinch the flower's chin. "Tell me, how can I open the passage to the sanctum and head to the realm beyond heaven?" You can just kill me." The flower used the last of her rationality to cry. "You're so annoying." Chio was about to go crazy. Her method had actually failed. She had wanted to show off in front of her master, but it had ended up like this. "Master, let Chio teach her a little more. She just needs a month." "No need." "Come out." Under Li Fan's command, the nine-tailed divine fox obediently flew out of Li Fan's body. She transformed into a red fox and landed on his shoulder. Her red tail wrapped around Li Fan's neck like a scarf. Then her yellow-red eyes stared intently at the flower's eyes. "Activate the souls of the four sages. Then use our realm beyond heavens, pass, to enter and exit the tower, pass." Li Fan glanced at the nine-tailed divine fox. The nine-tailed divine fox immediately understood his intentions. She nodded and activated her spell. "This is the pass." As the flower spoke, it opened its mouth and spat out a golden rune. The nine-tailed divine fox was ecstatic to see this, and he immediately sucked the symbol into his mouth. "Darling, after using this rune, you can enter the sky beyond heaven. All right, all that's left is the Vermilion Bird Tower." Li Fan waved his hand. "Let's go, let's attack the Vermilion Bird Tower." He had already brought the dragon lady back, and they could set off immediately. "If it's the Vermilion Bird Tower, you have to be careful." Ms. White Tiger flew out again and floated beside Li Fan. She looked at him and blushed slightly. "Is there anything terrifying about the Vermilion Bird Pagoda?" "Mysterious, Tensei. It's just that the Vermilion Bird used to have some strange hobbies." "What do you mean?" "That, among the four sages, Big Brother Black Tortoise is mature and steady while Little Brother Azure Dragon is aloof and cold. As for me, I'm gentle like water, witty beyond compare. Why are you rolling your eyes?" As for the Vermilion Bird, that girl was as passionate as fire, and she loved to pursue the beautiful love of the human world. Therefore, the mechanisms in her pagoda were more unique. When you get there, you'll naturally understand. Explain it clearly, don't be like the last time. After entering, I became an idiot and didn't understand the situation at all. Li Fan muttered in his heart. If it wasn't for the fact that he was more witty than others and went to find the past Lin Yin to help him solve the problem, he was afraid that he would really be dead. "Don't worry, this time, Zhang Qing and I will follow you," White Tiger explained. White Tiger explained, "Last time, the Azure Dragon Pagoda was a little special, because it sent you back to the past. At that time, one of us was under the Cold Pond Pagoda, and the other was on the island, so we were definitely unable to help you. However, the Vermilion Bird Pagoda doesn't have this ability. Although it can eliminate your power, it can't eliminate me and the nine-tailed divine fox." "But don't you guys belong to my power? The two of us are independent entities to begin with." White Tiger continued to explain, "We're just relying on your existence. Therefore, we will enter the Vermilion Bird Pagoda with you and cooperate with you." Li Fan roughly understood. "All right, I understand. It's best if I can help. I'll go inform Dragon Girl, we'll set off immediately." The Martial Emperor should have also started his operation, so he didn't have time to waste. Li Fan picked up Dragon Girl who was eating snacks and watching anime. Ignoring her protests, he used the Nine Heavens roaming dragon Qinggong and headed to the next Vermilion Bird Pagoda. The four holy pagodas were also set up according to four directions. The vermilion bird was a southern bird, so this vermilion bird pagoda was located on the southernmost island of Huaxia. It was hidden in the mirage and would only open during the hottest season. Although it was already past the height of summer, the matter was urgent, so he could only forcefully open it. Li Fan arrived at the end of the world. The vermilion bird pagoda was just 2 kilometers south of here. He jumped down from the shore, stepped on the sea, and continued to run. Fortunately, it was night time, so no one noticed this mysterious Huaxia man. Otherwise, Li Fan would probably be on the hot search on Weibo the next day. He followed Dragon Girl's guidance and came to the sea. Here, he only saw a stone pedestal floating on the surface of the sea. In the vast sea, if one didn't know the location, who would see a small stone pedestal here? "Numerous, come out. It's time for you to shine again," Li Fan urged. The 9-tailed divine fox flew out again and entered Li Fan's body, becoming a part of his power. Blazing palm. Li Fan struck out with his palm, and the surrounding temperature rose by a lot. Li Fan's palm was like a small sun, releasing a terrifying heat from his palm, filling the sea. Soon, the air in front of him began to distort, and a towering red pagoda gradually appeared from the void, appearing in front of Li Fan. There were a few pieces of rubble in front of the pagoda. Li Fan frowned. Looks like the martial emperor arrived one step earlier. The vermilion bird pagoda is not that easy to conquer. White Tiger comforted Li Fan, "We can still make it if we go now. As long as we get there before the martial emperor, there will be no problem." But he had even conquered the Azure Dragon pagoda, let alone the vermilion bird pagoda. Regardless of whether it was a god or a ghost, he had to take it down. "Dragon Lady, wait here for me. If the martial emperor comes out first, don't say anything, just turn around and run. If I come out first, yes, I'll treat you to a feast. Don't worry, my escaping skills are the best in the world." Chapter 1673. Vermilion Bird Pagoda, the last of the 4 Saint Pagoda. Li Fan and the martial emperor were both fighting for the ownership of this pagoda. Even if Li Fan gave the vermilion bird to the martial emperor, he could still enter the sky beyond heaven through the runes. However, each of the 4 saints had powerful combat power, which could be seen from Miss White Tiger. Furthermore, with the 4 saints by his side, their rich knowledge and experience would be of great help to him. No matter what, he had to get his hands on the vermilion bird. Li Fan entered the vermilion bird pagoda. This vermilion bird pagoda was indeed extraordinary. After entering, he realized that the interior was decorated like an ancient wedding hall. Red wedding couplets were hung everywhere, and the atmosphere was fiery and joyous. In this hall, there was also a large group of clay figurines. These clay figurines imitated the guests, the bride and groom who were bowing to heaven and earth, and the parents of both sides. They were truly lifelike and lifelike. Looking at the scene here, it seemed to be the era of the Republic of China. However, this family should be a wealthy family, and they seemed to have some power, because there were a few soldiers with guns standing guard for them. Another challenger. A mechanical voice sounded above Li Fan's head. "You have a month's time. As long as you can woo the bride who is about to get married, you can see me through the vermilion bird pagoda. Good luck." After saying that, the scene in front of Li Fan suddenly changed. It was as if he had entered the sea. A chill wrapped around him, and he even had a feeling of suffocation. When this feeling dissipated, Li Fan had already arrived in a brand new world. The surroundings were bustling with noise, and the surrounding people were congratulating the bride and groom. It looked like a scene of joy. Miss White Tiger's voice sounded in Li Fan's ears. This should be the scene set up by the vermilion bird. According to her requirements, you will win if you can woo the bride within a month. Fuck, what kind of fucking mission is this? Li Fan was extremely speechless. Stealing someone else's woman, this was a bit fucking. Li Fan glanced at the bride and groom who were bustling with excitement. The groom looked quite decent with thick eyebrows and big eyes. As for the bride, she was wearing a red veil, so it was hard to tell what she looked like. But looking at her figure wrapped in a red cheongsam, She looked very enchanting and sexy. Li Fan muttered to himself, a woman married by such a rich and powerful family shouldn't be too bad looking. Most importantly, he didn't even know her. How was he supposed to woo her within a month? I really envy young Master Wang for marrying such a beautiful woman. What's there to be envious of? Haven't you heard that Miss Yang is the top hostess of Shuyue Brothel? That's why I'm envious. What kind of place is Shuyue Brothel? Only famous scholars can go there. Do you think it's the smoky willow alley you usually go to? But I heard that Miss Yang is a little strange. Some people say that she's the reincarnation of a jinx. Go away, don't talk nonsense. Today is young Master Wang's big day. If he hears what you said, you're finished. That person didn't dare to make a sound and kept quiet. It seems like there's a plot to this mission. Li Fan looked at his own attire. He looked like a standard student of the Republic of China. He was wearing a black student uniform, but he didn't know which school he was pretending to be. Miss Yang, Li Fan muttered this name in his heart. From the information he just received, this Miss Yang should be a prostitute. However, many people misunderstood the concept of a brothel. A brothel was different from a brothel. The beauties in a brothel were all talented women who were proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. The customers were also the descendants of famous families. In ancient times, because of the Cheng and Zhou school of Confucianism, the descendants of the aristocratic families were usually engaged from a young age. They could only see their wives on the day of their marriage. Even if they were ugly, they couldn't divorce their wives easily. Therefore, the descendants of the aristocratic families didn't have love. They longed for love and needed it. Therefore, the brothel was born. The prostitutes in the brothel were trained from a young age, and all of them were talented women. It wasn't easy for the descendants of the aristocratic families to enter the brothel. If they didn't have any talent, they wouldn't even have the right to see the girls. The talented women in the brothel were also very special. They didn't give the descendants of the aristocratic family sex, but the feeling of true love. In fact, this kind of place also existed in modern times. In the past, those places like Tavern Heaven on Earth that were exposed in the news were this kind of place. However, Tavern Heaven on Earth didn't want any talent. What they wanted was pure money. Li Fan also checked the state of his body. His physical fitness was a bit stronger than ordinary people, but he didn't have any internal force. Obviously, this small world had reduced his ability. Vermilion Bird was Vermilion Bird after all. It wouldn't let him complete the task too easily. Husband and wife bowed to each other. The officiator was busy presiding over the wedding. When the couple was about to bow to each other, Li Fan heard someone shouting from the side. Wait! Li Fan turned his head and saw a group of armed soldiers rushing into the wedding hall and surrounded the entire hall. These soldiers were obviously the warlords of other factions. The military uniform they wore was beige. The leader was an officer who walked with a majestic aura that made people unable to look at him directly. Seeing him, Li Fan subconsciously took 2 steps back and shrank into the crowd. Fuck you, isn't this a martial emperor? How did he become an officer? Everyone was here to snatch girls, but this guy is too much. How can he act as an officer? I am a poor student. Isn't the difference in status a bit too big? Fuck your role-playing. Young master, be careful. A guard stood in front of Li Fan, which made Li Fan a bit surprised. Isn't this the Wang family soldier? Why are they here to protect me? The rest of the soldiers protected young Master Wang and his wife. Young Master Wang directly looked at the martial emperor who was acting as an officer and directly questioned. General Liu, what do you mean by this? From the looks of it, it doesn't seem like you are here to congratulate me. How is it not to congratulate you? I have even sent you a gift. The martial emperor laughed and waved his hand. An adjutant behind him walked over and threw a sack on the ground. Young Master Wang ordered someone to open the sack. There was a corpse lying inside. It was a woman. Qian? Young Master Wang's expression changed. How is it? I knew that you were going to marry, so I helped you kill your first wife. This way, you can live together with Miss Yang. Isn't that blissful? You are going too far. Young Master Wang wanted to flare up, but he didn't dare to flare up in front of 100 armed soldiers. So what if I am bullying you? I have taken a fancy to Miss Yang for a long time. How can a gigolo like you snatch her away from me? To tell you the truth, I did not plan to leave empty-handed today. Chapter 1674. Li Fan was speechless. He seemed to be playing the role of the young master of the Wang family, while the martial emperor was playing the role of a great warlord. This guy was actually barging in and trying to snatch Miss Yang away. In this place, the strength of the martial emperor should have been weakened, but he was a warlord, and he was holding a horse-brand pistol in his hand, which was a Browning pistol. The martial emperor directly held the horse-brand pistol and aimed it at young Master Wang's head. You're just a minister of education, do you think I don't dare to touch you? The martial emperor was very pleased with himself. In this place, whoever had military power was the boss. The martial emperor was very lucky. He had played the role of an adjutant of a warlord. Through his own methods, the martial emperor had directly killed his own master and quickly taken over the military power of the previous marshal. He had taken control of the 20,000 troops under his command. With these 20,000 people, the martial emperor had absolute strength in this era of warlords. With this kind of strength, wouldn't it be easy for him to snatch a woman away? The martial emperor was lucky. Firstly, his identity was good, and secondly, he had entered this world more than 10 days earlier than Li Fan. He had his own troops, leaving young Master Wang at his wits' end. Li Fan also frowned. The situation was too disadvantageous to him. If Miss Yang was snatched away by the martial emperor, he didn't know if his strategy would fail. Since the two of them were in the same small world, it meant that he and the martial emperor were going to complete the same mission. However, Miss Yang could only attack once. Out of the two of them, only one could complete it. He began to quickly think of a way. If he did not deal with it, things would really become very bad. Big Sister White Tiger, is there any way? I can lend you my strength. Although it's not particularly strong, it can still be considered a form of combat strength. Big Sister White Tiger's voice sounded in Li Fan's mind, but this way, your identity might also be exposed. A person with special abilities, I think, will be incompatible with this era, and Miss Yang might also be afraid of you, right? Hearing this, Li Fan fell silent. There were too many restrictions, but this was also the rule of the game. Bringing the White Tiger and the Divine Fox in was already a form of cheating. If he cheated too much, he might be rejected by the system or even corrected. Who dares to be so presumptuous in Minister Wang's house? Just as Li Fan's brain was about to explode, a loud shout came from outside. Following that, another group of soldiers filed in. These people were obviously from the same faction. Their military uniforms were all gray, and the leader was a genteel officer. He even wore a pair of glasses, but his eyes gave off a fierce feeling. Brigade Commander Chen, save me! Young Master Wang seemed to have seen his savior and hurriedly asked him for help. General Liu, what are you doing? Brigade Commander Chen asked coldly. The martial emperor couldn't help but curse. Although this Brigade Commander Chen was just a small brigade commander, behind him was a powerful warlord with 200,000 soldiers. He was only a small warlord at the moment, and there was no way he could compete with the other party. Young Master Wang is getting married. I'm here to send a congratulatory gift. This gift of yours is a little bloody. This is called putting on a red ribbon. If young Master Wang doesn't like it, I can just take it back. The martial emperor waved his hand. Take it back and bring me 10 little goldfish. The martial emperor exchanged 10 gold bars for them and gave them to the Wang family as a form of apology. Although his wife was killed, young Master Wang had no way to pursue her. In a chaotic war between warlords, the laws were chaotic, and the fist was the law. And Brigade Commander Chen couldn't directly challenge the martial emperor. After all, he was just a brigade commander. It was not easy for him to stand up for the Wang family. I'll give Brigade Commander Chen some face today and withdraw my troops. Before the martial emperor left, he said, however, Miss Yang, I'm afraid you won't have a good life with this young Master Wang. Why don't you consider me? I'll let you eat and drink, wear gold and silver, and guarantee you a life like a queen. It's the Republic of China now. There's no queen for a long time. Brigade Commander Chen pushed up his glasses and said, General Liu, what you're saying is a little perverse. Life is very chaotic now. Today, General Yuan is the emperor, tomorrow, Whip Lord is restored. Who knows what will happen? The martial emperor snorted. I'm leaving. Think about it yourselves. The martial emperor left a few threatening words, turned around, and left with his soldiers. Li Fan heaved a sigh of relief, but he cursed in his heart. The martial emperor, that son of a bitch, actually played this game. He wanted to force Miss Yang to take the initiative to join him? Since I'm here, he can forget about succeeding. Brigade Commander Chen, thank you very much for today. Young Master Wang cupped his hands at Brigade Commander Chen, sincerely grateful. What kind of relationship do we have? We're classmates and good friends. Brigade Commander Chen patted young Master Wang's shoulder. You were frightened today. It's your brother's fault for not protecting you well. How can I blame you? Who knew that General Liu would be so ruthless? Young Master Wang was very sad. My wife's body is still in his hands. I'm afraid it'll cost me a lot to redeem it. Marshal Liu is ruthless. We have to be on guard against him. Brigade Commander Chen glanced at Miss Yang, who was wearing a red veil, and did not continue. Looks like I won't be able to attend your wedding today. That's right. With such a big incident happening at home, we can't hold the banquet anymore. Wei Ning, I'll have to trouble you to stay at home for a few days. When everything calms down, we'll hold this wedding again. Miss Yang nodded, seemingly unable to walk due to fear. Finally, she returned to her room with the help of the two maids. Xiaoqing, help me coax her. I'll settle the matter here. Young Master Wang turned his head and said to Li Fan. Li Fan was dumbfounded. Fuck, what did he mean? As an elder brother, he wanted him to coax his fiancée? Was that a good idea? But he could not let go of the opportunity in front of him. Li Fan nodded without hesitation and turned to follow the two maids. Just as he left, he heard Brigade Commander Chen's voice behind him. Brother, you have to be careful. This Miss Yang might really be a little evil. Li Fan curled his lips. Feudal superstition. Since ancient times, emperors, generals, and ministers had always been like this. They took all the good things for themselves and pushed all the bad things to women. Once the country was destroyed, there would always be a woman to take the blame. Who did Miss Yang provoke this time? It was all because of the martial emperor's own stupid dick. Li Fan walked along the corridor, passed through 2 courtyards, and arrived at the side room where Miss Yang was staying. Young master. The 2 maids at the door bowed to Li Fan. You may leave. I have a few words with my sister-in-law. Li Fan waved his hand and used his authority to dismiss the 2 maids. Hee, beautiful sister-in-law, your brother-in-law is here to visit. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.